Yeah, cool. Hey, gang, what's going on? It's Mike's from LiveMyAssOff.com. Let me just mute this over here. And let me get going over here. All right, there we go. So, with any luck, I'm live everywhere. Hope you guys are doing great. It is 9 a.m. Bangkok time. And so far, so good. I don't even know what sort of day of the lockdown kind of thing this is, because it just sort of adds up, right? And I mean, I'm getting used to it. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but Dennis, what's going on, buddy? Dude, how cool has it been, Zoom meetings, right? I'm over here in Bangkok, right? And a bunch of my buddies and I would normally get together and, physically hang out, right? We can't do that anymore. So, selfishly, I'm really psyched because, they're all there, like Southern California, wherever, and they're all hanging out and they're using Zoom. And so I can just dial right in. I mean, whether I'm 5 feet away or 5,000 kilometers away, right? I don't know whether you guys have been taking advantage of that. I'm quite certain that if you're a business, then obviously. I mean, I was using Zoom long before this whole crazy Corona thing started, but it's definitely become more commonplace. Let's just say that. That's for sure. So, from my perspective, the good news is that I'm going live on the Expats Lockdown in Asia news and chat group that my buddy Rike started on Facebook. I'm also live on LiveMyAssOff.com. And then, most of you probably know about the YouTube channel. So, with any luck, we will still be broadcasting everywhere, right? So, anyway, the chat's up here, and you guys can definitely chime in. For the most part, all of it will show up there, meaning my Facebook, YouTube. If you're on Twitch, or you're on Periscope, or you're on Twitter, or if you're on VK.com, meaning, VK.com, if you guys don't know, that's basically Facebook for Russia. Nico, good to see you. And Brian, absolutely awesome. It's really great having my regulars. I remember back when I was drinking, man, my fantasy, actually, before I started going to bars regularly, after watching Cheers growing up, is that I would walk into a bar and at one time maybe people would be like, Mickey or Mike or whatever, right? So Norm, from Cheers. And I discovered that can happen provided that you buy everyone else basically as many drinks as they want. Good morning, Thailand. Yeah, this format is better. Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate it, buddy. I'm honored that any of you spend 5 seconds watching my videos. Rike, what's happening, buddy? Just woke up, waiting on coffee. Stand by. Anyway, so the cool thing is that I'm live pretty much everywhere. Instagram is the only downside in the sense that I can only go 1 hour there, but that's okay. So I'm having my 3-in-1. If you guys aren't from around here, then you probably don't know what a 3-in-1 is. So 3-in-1 is basically a packet. Sometimes it's long, and other times it's square. And sometimes, in the Philippines, for example, you buy them individually. Over here, I buy them they call them sticks or sachets. And they're 3-in-1. There's coffee, there's creamer, and there's sugar. And I believe what I was told is the reason that they started doing that over here is because historically they didn't have any refrigeration. So, of course, they had, powdered milk, right? Or creamer, which is kind of gross. So believe it or not, the creamer that are in these 3-in-1 things is actually very, very good. And it uses real sugar too. So, and it's Robusta beans, not Arabica beans, which is highly preferred by the kid. So anyway, I haven't got any Kirk Bennett, what's going on, buddy? No, unfortunately it's Mike's. Nothing here is in post. It is not in Memorex. So Kirk and I share a love for radio. I would submit specifically radio the way it was in the 80s and 90s. 3-in-1 just landed on my desk. Blanca latte. That stuff's really cool. So Rique's in the Philippines, and in the Philippines, it's kind of cool because you can go to what's called the Sari Sari store, which is like a little sort of mom and pop little thing, and they have like packets like one after another, and they're all sort of attached together with a perforation, and you can just like tear one off or tear two off or tear three off. There's a lot of individual stuff purchased in the Philippines or in any sort of I don't want to say poorer neighborhood, or not neighborhood, but sort of area, because, I mean, people have like 5 pesos, or they have like 10 cents, or they have whatever. And so they're like, well, I'm going to go get one coffee. They don't have the ability to go to Costco and be like, oh, let's load this car up, man. It's the only reason I bought an SUV is so that I can go to Costco once a week, and if I get out of there for less than $350, I've had some massive triumph. So, okie doke. So where are we? Well, today's Sunday here in the kingdom. There's been a lot of change. And Rique says he'll grow up someday, which is highly disappointing. One thing I can probably count on is I will get older. I don't know if I will get more mature or if I will grow up, but I will definitely get... Yeah, Nescafe. That stuff's really... Gracie loves that one. I'm a Moccona guy. The Moccona Gold ones, those are my favorite. They don't sell those as much in the Philippines. It's more of a Thai thing. I believe it's a company out of Australia that imports them in here into Thailand. But yeah, those are my fave. So the link up top there is one of those deals that if you guys know anything about URLs or domains, you like get one and then you can forward it to wherever you want. So the short answer there is that livemyass.live is simply the URL that will always go to the next upcoming stream on YouTube. Now, if you're watching me on Facebook or you're watching me on Instagram or Pinterest no, actually, I'm not on Pinterest because they don't do streaming. TikTok does streaming, but I don't have enough friends. Speaking of which, okay, shameless plug. So I've got like 750, I want to say, subscribers on the YouTube channel. And I really want 1,000. And it is not because I want to make money or anything. If I don't have 1,000, there are like a dozen features that YouTube doesn't give you. So if you would, please subscribe. Tell your friends. Get them to subscribe. Even if they never watch. It would just be really cool if they subscribe. I have no ego in this. I'm just very disappointed with the technical limitations. Like there's no community tab, for example. And that stuff just bugs me. Because if I was okay with technical limitations, then, well, heck, I'd do a live broadcast on only one medium. But no. It's got to be on like 7 or something, right? Truck says 3-in-1 hot cocoa for wannabe grown-ups. And that's why Rique said grown-ups. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, because grown-ups, right, you could argue they have like a whole process. Like I got a buddy, Sean, back in California, and he is into coffee. So he's got like the proper filters. He buys like the Jamaican roast, like have it imported. It's like $22 for a half pound or something. And Dozers a sub. Thank you very much, dude. I really appreciate it. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. One of these days, I'm going to hit 1,000, and then the floodgates are going to open technically. So, for a year, thanks, man. That's really awesome. I really appreciate it. Okay, so what's going on in Thailand? So the short answer is that it's just a different version of bonkers, depending upon where you are. But I will tell you, and here's the reason that I wanted to bring this up specifically, is the numbers, because, data and fact, right? Pretty helpful. And so one of the things that I think a lot of us know about is this this chart here from John Hopkins. And you'll note that so far there's 2,000 confirmed in Thailand and 674 recovered, and we've got 20 deaths here. So, that's not too bad. But what I really love is when I see this. And this here, I'll make it full screen, is the daily numbers of cases that they determine. And I would submit that probably Thailand. I can't speak for other countries because, like, I live here. I mean, I have some knowledge of the U.S., but I'm giving you guys my experience here in Thailand. So, and I'll go into all of the sort of responses and reactions, or however you want to label it, they've gone through here. The short answer is I'm very impressed with Thailand. I'm hugely impressed with Taiwan and Singapore, but we'll get into that in a second. But the point is that I am digging this right here. I mean, I got mildly excited, right, when it went from like the 26th at 111 down to 91 on the 27th. And then it went back up, and it's like, okay, well, this is basically, then it's just sort of flattening. But from the 29th all the way to basically yesterday, we've literally halved it. Or not, we haven't halved it, I'm sorry. From 143 to 89. I read the number wrong. It's kind of tiny. You may not even be able to see it. But yeah. So the short answer is, as of, I believe these stats come in. Actually, I can verify. But for the sake of argument, let's say they come in at midnight on that day. So as of, yesterday was 4. April 4th, and 89 yesterday, and then 143. But you mean literally like every single day. It wasn't like, up, down, up, down. It was like 140, 143, 136, 127, 120, 104, 103, and then 89. And, we'll do our infamous fingers crossing and hope that that today brings a number below 89. So anyway, so that's sort of the trajectory of Thailand. Why I find that incredibly encouraging, other than the fact that, of course, it's decreasing every day, right, is, well, I also believe that we're testing the best we can. In other words, I don't believe we're sitting around saying, oh my God, we don't have any test kits, but when we do get some test kits, boy, are the numbers really going to grow. No. But here's another one thing I wanted to take you to, and I apologize, the website, or rather there's a couple things, actually, that you guys have probably noticed that are happening globally. The first is that the internet is not as fast as I want it to be. It's pretty darn good here. And the good news about me being in Thailand is basically I'm using the internet during the day when you guys are sleeping. When a lot of you guys are sleeping. I know I got guys from the Philippines and Thailand in here, but as far as the folks back east and in California, back east, if you're still up, thanks, appreciate it. It's 10 p.m. there. But anyway, take a look at Taiwan, man. I mean, only 5 deaths. Then again, one is disappointing. But, I would submit that probably one person died yesterday because of an accident with a toaster. Do you realize that in America, toasters kill approximately 750 people per year? So, numbers are interesting, right? Because if you're going to say, well, Boeing, I mean, they only kill 750 people a year. Oh, my God, I'm never flying again. I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive away from the airport because it is infinitely more dangerous to ride in a car. But I'm going to get in a car and I'm going to drive to a plane where the chances of there being an accident are 0.001, and the chances of me getting in a car accident in this car on the way to the airport are 1%. Oh my God, I'm not a statistical analysis guy. But anyway, let's take a look at this. So you got your daily increase, or your daily number of incidents, right? And again, there was this like little blip, which interestingly enough was about the same time that there was the one in Thailand, where it went down and went up by about, maybe it's off by a week. But again, and you have these, right? But I'm going to go from like right here, and I'm just going to draw a line basically hitting the tops, right? So, you get really excited when you get down to here, and then it goes up a little. But at the end of the day, the trajectory, right? That's just, I mean, I've always said that. It's like I can't have, I'm living the dream, and every day is spectacular. Not every day is amazing. I do my best to make it that way, but the trajectory is in the right direction. The trajectory is in the direction of awesome. So, U.S., and interestingly enough, when I first started this broadcast, before I just hit refresh on this page, it was 308, so woohoo, 311,000, so that's a drag. With total deaths at just under 8,500, which is a real bummer, of course. But I think the biggest thing that just makes me raise my eyebrows and be like, oh man, is this right here. I mean, there is maybe on these 2 days we got all excited that it went down from 19.8 thousand to 19.4 thousand. This one, 18.1 to 17.8. But come on, man. These are the kind of sales numbers you want. It's like the inverse, man. I mean, this is basically relative to your golf score. The lower the number, the better. So that's the direction that's headed. If I haven't shared this with you, covid19.healthdata.org/projections. I find this, and again, every day that goes by, one could argue that it gets more statistically significant because they have another sample size of data. So, that's not... it makes it more accurate. It doesn't make me more happy. It doesn't make you guys more happy, I'm sure. The fact that they believe... Now, again, this is the United States. It's going to peak on April 15th, right? So we're looking at another almost 2 weeks because, again, this is the average for all 50 states. And if you want, and so I would highly recommend you go to this if you have any interest in this. Maybe you're just overwhelmed and you're like, dude, all I want to hear about is beaches in Thailand. But I do want to touch on this because I would submit that, hopefully one of the reasons that you come here is to get some sort of data on Thailand. So by contrast, right, so Florida, they're not going to peak till May 3rd, but the cool thing about Florida is that right now, and for a while now, their trajectory has basically been in the direction of like, look, dude, we got 20,000 beds and we're only going to need 16,000. This number here includes this number. This number is a subset of this. So, they're kind of short on the ICUs, which you could argue, yeah, those are the ones that you really need in Florida potentially because of the, the older population maybe. And it looks like they're going to need 2,000 ventilators. I don't believe it gives the data on how many ventilators they currently have. But yeah, they're going to peak somewhere around basically a month from now. They got another month to go. But the cool thing is this really awesome horizontal line here is sort of maximum. And all their curves are estimated. But now, again, obviously there's there's a plus and minus, right? Where you're going to be like, okay, well, yeah, it could be as high as 50,000. It might be, our fantasy is it might be as low as, but the point is that it's going to do here. So anyway, covid19.healthdata.org/projections. All this stuff I throw into the YouTube description afterwards. The other thing, too, is I shared before I'm part of the STEP program, and that basically, you sign up for that, and then you get notifications from the embassy or the State Department. And, on my last video, it was like, yeah, I was getting like once a month before during my travels, and obviously it's a global pandemic, I get it. So now they're at the point where they're emailing us once a day. Except on the 3rd, they emailed us 3 times. And so on the 3rd, which was Friday for us, they basically said, hey, look, so here's the deal. You're not going to be able to get out of Phuket. We're closing the airport from the 10th to the 30th. And, depending upon when Thailand is going to peak, unfortunately, I don't have one of these pieces of data graphs for Thailand. But the point is that, they're like, look, if you're in, the bottom line is all they've been doing is emailing us saying, dude, you got to get out. Like, if you have any fantasy of coming home, thank you for the new subscriber, by the way. I really appreciate that. I just missed who it was. I really wish that it would, like, it notifies me maybe of like 50% of the people that subscribe. I get an email, hey, this person subscribed. But anyway, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It will benefit all of us, I swear. So anyway, so they're closing that. But the other thing too is they're pretty clear. I think in here they usually make the statement: look, the U.S. government is not going to provide you with any assistance, dude. So get out now while you can. If you're a tourist, if you live here, then don't travel internationally. Then don't travel. But the other nugget from the U.S. Embassy is the nationwide curfew. If you haven't heard, obviously there were some provinces and some towns, villages in Thailand that basically said, hey, there's going to be a nationwide curfew, but as of Friday at 10 p.m., they're like, look, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., nobody goes outside. And, they're enforcing it and they're fining. And, of course, there's stories about, oh, my God, this one guy, he was like out at 10:05 or whatever. Okay, well, that means he probably wasn't, at 9 o'clock, you say to yourself, the street lights are coming on, better get home before mom gets angry. So, again, maybe you're only drinking 3-in-1s and you're not a real adult, so you can't tell time real well, but I would submit to you that we've been ramping up to this, hey, don't go outside after 10 p.m. thing. Because, look, the majority of us here are staying indoors. We may go out once a day. I don't, actually. I go out occasionally. I will go downstairs to get the packages that get delivered to me. But anyway, so that's Thailand. And then the final sort of nugget, and then we can sort of maybe get on to some happier stuff, I don't know, is the fact that the airports, every airport in Thailand has been closed all weekend. They closed it down basically Saturday at midnight, and it's going through the 6th. So it's going to be Saturday, Sunday, technically like Sunday, right? Because it was, I believe, 12:01 on the 4th. Yeah. So, technically, Saturday morning, right? So late in the night, Friday, all the way through midnight on the 6th. And so it's closed. All commercial aircraft, not happening. State military, that's good. Relief flights from aid and medical, that's a good news, right? In case we need product, PPE, I guess. But I believe that is going to delay the things I've ordered from China for probably, 3 or 4 days. And then again, they just reiterate the curfew. So, look, at the end of the day, it's mildly disappointing. But I would submit it's a very reasonable response. Missy says, hey, Missy, good to see you. She's one of my greatest subs. Missy, have you subscribed to me on YouTube? Because you always pop in on Facebook, which I love. Trust me, I got no problem with that. But I need some subs. I don't need some. I need probably 200 more. And then we'll be living the dream. Anyway, Missy says, some of my contractors are from India and their families are still there. If the police catch too many people on the street, cars, bikes, etc., they beat the heck out of them with sticks, all on video. Yeah, I'm not going to say that other countries aren't without their problems, but yeah, that's happening. So here's what's interesting about this chat. Thank you very much, Missy. She said she did describe. Rike says to Roy, he says, I would think all those waves would actually lessen viruses on open surfaces if it was to do anything. I don't see a connection myself. So I was afraid of this, and I will refer to it as a quality problem because, when I stream live, right, I'm like, woohoo, 9 people showed up. So I get a comment every, 10 minutes. And for the most part, it's me and Missy talking back and forth. So here is my quality problem. I now have more chat than will fit in that box. But see, the thing is I stream on multiple platforms, so I don't want to miss it. Anyway, so, and so Charlie, thank you. Charlie says, where can we find 999 subscribers? I don't know, dude. I don't know if I have that many friends. Anyway, so I wanted to go back to some of the comments. So, Dozer says he traveled to Thailand/Asia during SARS, right? So here's a really good, interesting data point. They would check your temperature at the airport and would not let you fly if you were over. Now, let me share with you, the first time I came to Thailand in 2012, I transferred through Taipei. And that was the first time I was anywhere near Asia, right? I mean, basically like a Chinese restaurant maybe in Chinatown in a major city is about as Asian as I got. Greyhound Bus, lots of new subs there. Absolutely, dude. We got to cruise down there. Just like hand out pamphlets, right? Or actually do that thing because you can't go outside in Vegas anymore. So do that thing like they do in Vegas with the business cards, to try and get you to get friends to come to your hotel room inexpensively. Yeah. So I go through Taipei and I land, and of course, I'm all excited, right? Because there's like a screen that tells me where my plane is in Taiwanese and English, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm living the anyway. So I get off and I go, you walk to transit, right, or transfer. And there's a guy there with like a little gun thing. And at first I thought, is he like checking our speed? Like, is he measuring like how fast we're going, how fast we're walking? But no. They referred to it as quarantine, but it wasn't, but that was the worst case scenario. But they referred, basically, they're doing the forehead checking your temperature. Now, this was in 2012 when, nothing was going on. Okay, I believe nothing was going on. For all I know, there was some crazy Taiwanese flu that was happening in that December when I first came over here. But my point is that Taiwan and other places that I've transferred through too. They've been checking your temperature like for a long time, and I get it, because Taiwan's like, look, dude, we got this island, and we would prefer to not have to reach out to dad for some assistance because we kind of want to be autonomous. And every time we reach out to the U.S. for help, oh my God, we got to give up all this real estate. We got to put another friggin' airport in for all their military or whatever. You know, the whole south of Taiwan, right? Kind of like Japan. I'm not going to get political. The point is that they're very cautious, right? And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool, kind of a cool idea. Well, have that thought, and then look at the statistics for Taiwan, and you're like, oh, maybe they had something going on. Maybe they knew what they were talking about. Maybe they were doing what they should have been doing in 2012. America. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone's in tough shape. People are just in different versions of tough shape. That's all it is. Roy says Nescafe Alta Rica is his favorite for the 3-in-1s, which is pretty cool. Though haven't seen it here in Thailand. Yeah, I have not seen some of those as well. The thing I like about Thailand is I find that there's not everything, right? I mean, you can get stuff delivered, but then, it's like you pay 3 times the cost of the item in shipping just to get it here. But you can get stuff here. Whereas in the Philippines, it's a little harder to get stuff. Roy, where are you in Thailand here? I forget. If you're in Bangkok, dude, let's totally hang out. Oh, wait. Let's keep in touch so that one day we could potentially have coffee, 2 arms lengths away. So Rike says, true story, the 3-in-1 in the Philippines has more sugar than the same Nestle product in Vietnam. I do not doubt that. The Vietnamese like their coffee very strong. They also like to add a lot of sweetened condensed milk. So it's kind of nice, right? Because I'm an extreme guy. Like, I'm either doing something 110% at 80 miles an hour, or I am doing nothing. I'm doing 200% of nothing. Middle of the road, balance, never of interest to me, ever. Mike, how many platforms are you streaming on right now? As many that'll let me. Hashtag amazing. So, Brenda, oh, I miss Brenda. Brenda and her husband, Errol, are my second mom and dad, and that's not a reference to their age. It's a reference to their unconditional love. And I've known those guys for a long time and had the pleasure of working for them, which was really cool. When initially, back when, selling stuff on the web was like kind of new, on both Facebook and YouTube. Boom. Thanks, Missy. And they had a website that was selling clothes. And one of the guys that we got to interface with was Rick Eyre. He's, name is public. He's not hiding anything. And he was one of the first 10 or 12 guys that worked at Amazon. He actually wrote the first sequential database queries, I think. I can't remember. But anyway. Charlie N is my new groupie, and I love Charlie like a fat kid loves cake. And I'm not just kidding. You ever have those guys in your life, you guys, where if you're going to introduce somebody, they're just really important, and you may or may not, I may or may not label this person, oh my God, this dude saved my life, and that could mean anything. It could mean that I really needed to go to the restroom and he was the only guy in Southern California with toilet paper in March of 2020 or whatever, right? There was a scenario that was disappointing and this guy saved my life. So Charlie saved my life, literally saved my life, because I was on a path that was not in the right direction. And my best thinking was this whole life thing, I mean, this is for the birds. And of course, and I'm saying it now because I'm laughing at myself, because for me today, in this body, in this amount of space that I take up in my life, for me to go from here, and let's face it, the surroundings, what's going on around me is imperfect, right? As well as you. But I was at a point where I'm I don't want to live anymore, But from my glasses today, looking out, I'm how in the amount of steps, the amount of scenarios, the number of things that would have to get in the right order over a certain period of time for me to get back to a place where I'm oh my God, I don't want to live anymore. I cannot even imagine. I cannot even imagine the number of things that would occur. Because look, dude, I've been out of a job. I've been fired. I've had very little money. I've been in massive debt. So I've had all that, Western nonsense. I've also really liked a girl who didn't like me back, and so that was emotionally disappointing, and I've had all that stuff ever since I met Charlie. But never since I met Charlie was I back to the point where I was the first day I met Charlie. So, I wish for all of you a Charlie. I hope every single one of you has a Charlie. And if not, his email address and phone number. No. It was also critical for me at that time in my life that he was physically near me, so I could actually meet with him and he could give me a hug. Very little social distancing was occurring in my life back then, thank God. Roy says, most countries are saying leave if you have little money, or stay if you can sustain yourself for a few months. And one could argue that no matter where you go on vacation, they really should have that sign at the door when you enter the country. Roy also says, Thai immigration still expect people on tourist visas to visit the office to renew. So, I have data that says if they're on a tourist visa, then they don't need to do that. I'm not going to... I may be inaccurate on this, Roy, but I believe I got it from The Tiger, T-H-E, thetiger.com. I believe the most recent report was if you are on a tourist visa, then it will automatically it'll extend for 30 days. Now, if you're on a OA visa, or you're over here on a 30-day stamp, then yes, you got to go do something. But if you have gotten a tourist visa, and you got it and came into the country around early March. Enrique says in the Philippines, late fees are being waived until the quarantine is lifted, which makes sense. I was like, well, you know what? Here's the deal. We're going to that would just lack so much integrity, right? Like, oh, here's a great way to force people to owe us money. But anyway, what I heard is that tourist visas will be extended. Tourist visas, let's not confuse that with the 30-day stamp that, for example, Canadians, Australians, we get. When we show up at the border, we don't have to fill out anything. We give them our passport, and as long as we haven't killed anybody, then they basically stamp us in and say, okay, you got 30 days, visa exempt. So... Dozer says the Thai government changes the rules all the time. No disagreement. So what I heard could have been that correct then, and today Roy's statement is totally true. So trust me, I'm not saying you're wrong. The better statement would have been what Dozer just said, which is, hey dude, the Thai government changes the rules all the time. So buckle up. Rike says he can't skateboard late at night, which is a real drag because of his curfew in the Philippines. Roy asks, what's your opinion about the conspiracy theory that 5G has partly caused the outbreak of this virus? Okay, so you asked my opinion. I am an electrical engineer, so I have all of the theory behind me. Additionally, I worked in radio and television for 20 years as an engineer. So I have the very practical experience, knowledge, and firsthand. In other words, like I've touched two things that were too live at one time, like literally firsthand thrown back across the room saying, oh wow, that was 480? Jeez, I thought that was 120. I should probably use a voltmeter next time. So, and I also have the experience of touching RF, right? So 5G, meaning all of the frequencies that make up the 5G standard of cell phone transmission, basically, such that in a complete vacuum, 1 meter, you get 100 gigabit throughput, which is the fantasy. It'll never occur. So, I believe it is more of a conspiracy theory than data in fact that any significant amount of damage is caused to humans by 5G. The Wi-Fi band, the initial one, right? So 802.11b, G, that sort of thing. 2.4 gigahertz because it is an unlicensed band by the FCC, meaning unlike a radio station like 100.7 FM, you got to go to the FCC and say, hey, here's my financial I can do this. I can do this 10 years with 7 years with no revenue. At least that was the rule a while ago. I promise, if I go on the air, if you guys give me this license, I'll stay on the air. And so you gotta basically convince the FCC that you're doing this full time if they're going to give you a license. And so that's a licensed band, right? All of the cell carriers have a licensed band. That's if you ever hear of the auctions that occur when there is a new standard that goes into place and there's a new frequency band, those get auctioned by. Ooh, phew. Okay, I don't know what happened. It doesn't look like it stopped. It looked like it was disappointing for a while. So with any luck, it's not anymore. Let me get rid of a couple of tabs here just to make sure that I'm not using up more CPU than I should. How's that? So anyway, back to RF. So 2.4 gigahertz unlicensed band. If you don't know, that's also the frequency that microwaves work at. So therefore, when you were Panasonic and you're making these microwaves that became, oh my God, how did I ever live without this in the 1970s? The frequency of the radio frequency, which is RF, thank you, Rike, slams into your food and it basically moves the molecules around. And the amount of power that is in your microwave, okay, is on average about 10,000 more powerful, 10,000x. Let's say for the sake of argument, 1,000. Maybe it's not an additional because you could have a very high-powered, made outside the United States Wi-Fi router, okay? But at the end of the day, basically the standard Wi-Fi router in your house is 0.25 watts, 1/4 of a watt. And I'm sure you guys either own or have seen or purchased a microwave that is 1,000 watts. So it's a little bit bigger. And pregnant women walk by microwave ovens all day long, okay? That's 2.4 gigahertz. Obviously, there's some filtering. You don't use a microwave with the door wide open, okay? So I get that, and that's why there's that mesh in there. So therefore, it basically is a ground plane. So any frequency, any RF, that hits that thing, it basically is grounded, and therefore it doesn't enter your intestines or make you sterile, right? So that's the background on that. 5G, and let me talk about 4G. If you have the fantasy that you have 4G on your phone to the standard that 4G is, right? Because the standard for 4G basically says you're going to get 1 gigabit per second. And you probably will get 300 megabits per second. But that came out. And they went through all this marketing, and they basically told the world, 4G's coming, 4G's coming, 4G's coming. And then the guys that make the radios, Qualcomm and others, right, Nokia at the time, very popular, they said, so we're not hitting that number, like, at all. So I tell you what, in the interim, let's do this. We'll still call it 4G, but we'll throw the letters LTE on there, and then that way, people will think, well, there's 4G, and then there's 4G LTE. So clearly, I'm getting better, right? And so what happened was they came out with 4G LTE, just so you know, and their thinking was like, okay, we'll use this interim step, long-term evolution, okay? So that kind of tells you, yeah, it's going to be a little bit longer than we'd like, but LTE, long-term evolution. We'll use that until we can really do the 4G, because there is no 4G, essentially, in the world. Absolutely, in downtown Tokyo, they're blasting. They got a really good infrastructure there. But even in the middle of nowhere where there's no more interference and the only tower you see is the one from the cell phone thing, 4G, rare, not happening, couldn't get their act together, so they stuck it to LTE, which I want to verify. I believe it was basically 10x the speed of 3G. You will... and you can just quickly, the easiest thing to do is Google, is 4G and LTE the same thing? Google gives you a very easy description of, I was trying to figure out where to send you guys. Wikipedia gives a pretty decent example, but, okay, so why do I tell you that? Because if you think, when Verizon or China Telecom as well. I think maybe Japan has it and Taiwan has it too. They say we have the most 5G rollout of anybody. Okay. Yeah. Okay, no dispute that they are using newer radios that can broadcast the new technology, which lightning top excellent is not what it stands for, Rike. So if you think that the 5G standard that everyone is praying will occur, it's not going to happen. In fact, if you've seen some of these videos on YouTube, you could search on YouTube for something like real 5G speed or something. In it, this guy takes a 5G phone, because you can absolutely buy them, and he stands and he can see a 5G tower. So he's in like New York City, like where it's okay. So it's like you can see it, like it's line of sight, maybe 500 meters away, on the top of a building. So obviously it's got downward radiation. It's literally coming right at his phone. So he does it, and he does a speed test, and he gets like 750 megabits a second, right? Which is insane. Now, you could also argue, like, what the hell server in the world regularly throws out data to the average consumer, right, at anything more than 100 megabits a second? The testing servers, yeah, but like, you know, even when you go to Microsoft.com, trust me, they got a lot of bandwidth shaping. They are not squirting at 1 gigabit per second. If you're paying for 1 gigabit per second fiber in your house, it is not 1 gigabit per second through the internet from your house to the Microsoft server. And I can guarantee you the server has a network interface card on it that far exceeds 1 gigabit per second. But they're not sending that directly to you. So the point is that even if you have that speed, how the hell are you going to take advantage of it, other than bandwidth speed testing, right? Okay, so he does that speed test. He gets a crazy number. He literally walks behind a tree where you can still see the antenna through the tree, and he gets 1/10 that speed. Okay? So, why am I telling you this? Because if you think you're going to get physical long-term damage to your body from the frequencies and the power that is used for 5G right now, when we're basically still in the testing phase, don't. Okay? The short answer is don't worry about it. Unless you work, unless you're a tower climber, okay, then wear a lead suit. But if you're a tower climber, yeah. But if you're like the average guy and you're gal and you're walking down the street and you're like, oh my God, there must be 5G towers around. Okay, here's the deal. The amount of radiation you get from the sun, okay, is more detrimental to your body, because it's not just, you know, infrared and like going to damage your skin. I mean, you're going to get frequencies that are a lot higher than that too. Not at the, I mean, you're not out in space, okay, so there's like the filtration of the ionosphere and all that. But the point is that if you're really, really concerned about getting any long-term damage from the frequencies that are in the whole 5G standard, wear a thick coat, okay? Because at about 5 gigahertz, which is some of the frequencies they're going to use, they also want to use 11 gigahertz and 22 gigahertz in that band, and that's where you hear these people saying, oh my God, but it's millimeter wave. Okay, dude, what? The only thing that means is that if it's a millimeter wave or nanometer wave, that I can basically stop it by going like this with a piece of paper, okay? It doesn't bend around corners. It doesn't bounce off a lot of things. It barely can make it through glass that has the filtration on it so that you don't get all of the... So, like, let's say you have a south-facing wall in your house. Traditionally, if you're doing new construction, you'll put a kind of glass in there that has some degree of filtration, and that's got the R value, much like, you know, pink insulation would have. So that stuff's not going to get into your house, and you're not going to get this massive greenhouse effect in your house, okay? That barrier stops 5 gig and above. Right now, if you go outside and you look around any of the houses and you see a dish network antenna, small satellite dish, 22 gigahertz. Sometimes 12, depending upon how the license is. If you have dish or you had like the old star band stuff, then okay. But here's the point. Now, that's coming from basically geosynchronous satellites, which means they're over the equator, or not over the equator, they're over one point of the Earth, and they stay there. They're approximately 25,000 miles up. So, if I can stop the amount of power that's coming at 5 gigahertz here by like holding up a piece of paper, or let's say a cookie sheet, okay, for the sake of argument. If I can stop that at the power that's here, but yet if it's able to get through the air, then I get like, 70 megabits down, 100 megabits down. So obviously 5 gig works, but there is a barrier, right? Okay, so then imagine if you have a transmitter, i.e. a satellite, 25,000 miles above the Earth. Imagine how much power you got to turn that thing up to so that it gets down to a house in Nebraska, and the guy's able to get 700 channels with the same beam, effectively, as the guy in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay? So the amount of power that's coming into your body right now at 22 gigahertz, it's no more, really, than you'll get from 5G. So unless you want to call up Dish Network, and because whether you're a customer or not, you're getting that they're getting that energy, okay? So unless you want to call those guys up and say, hey, turn your satellites off, okay, you're getting it. Finally, I believe it's DirecTV. DirecTV has a license for the band that the 5G standard they want to use. And so I believe DirecTV is being enlisted to be part of that transmission. So that's a pretty sweet monopoly they got going on, right? So that is a hi, Teresa. Riki says, yeah, simple, just cut down all the trees. Absolutely. I mean, what do they provide us with? Oxygen? Dude, I can buy oxygen in a tank. I don't need it from trees. At night. How cool is photosynthesis? Can we talk about... No, I'm just kidding. So anyways, that is a very long answer, and I believe a very valid technical justification to why I label all of these people who potentially have degrees, who make claims that 5G is going to damage you somehow. I call them crackpots. That's Mike's... You asked for Mike's opinion. That's Mike's opinion based on working with the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz bands, that when they came out, people said, oh my God, these are going to kill me. And now if you don't have Wi-Fi in your house, you're like, okay, I can't live. Like, okay, there's oxygen, there's electricity, but where's the Wi-Fi? Like, where is the 2.4 gigahertz? Like, literally, it's almost like your body will freaking die if you don't have 2.4 gigahertz bouncing around your house, providing you at least 10 megabits per second down, right? So that's fair. So that's my answer on that one. The and Missy talked about her contractors in India. Yeah, they're up against it. So Rike's still here, I think. Now he's in the Philippines, and the reaction by a lot of people to this curfew that is being enforced, again, in Mike's opinion, because it's my channel and this is my life and this is my experience, is ridiculous, okay? Because it's like, where do you think we're going to get our food, bro? Now, if you're in the province and you've got a farm, like Gracie, her family, she sent me a picture this morning of, she took bell peppers and she got a stem from each one, and then she put a little dirt ball at the bottom, right? And then so that is going to be her next bell pepper plants that come up, and so she's going to go plant those. Well, multiply that by about 7 other vegetables and an unlimited amount of rice that they have, okay, and pigs and chickens and all that. So they've got eggs for breakfast, and then if the chicken bothers them and makes too much noise, well, then they slaughter it and they eat that for, chicken burgers, right? So they're eating real well in the province. Now, if you're in the city, and the only way you can get food is to go to Steve's grocery store. And on your way to Steve's grocery store, you get beaten by a mob of police. That's, what are you going to do, right? It's like, I got to eat. And, the majority of the way people eat is they exchange currency that they were given in exchange for them working so that they can buy their next cheeseburger. And you can't do that. You can't work. So you can't work, you can't get money, and, look, when I was 12, I think I opened up my first savings account. I grew up in the U.S. That doesn't occur in many other countries. You don't you get to 7th grade, you don't get to junior high, and one of the sort of adult things your parents teach you is how to open up a savings account. okay? Everywhere. But in where I grew up, and maybe Missy, you had the same experience. Missy grew up literally right next door to me. So I've known of this savings for years. And then I got older, and then I learned about credit cards, and I learned about debt, and I learned about massive debt, and then I didn't learn about bankruptcy, thank God. I mean, I've heard of it. I know the process, but I haven't gone through it and don't want to. So anyway, I don't have savings. So if I don't work today, I don't have money today. And trust me, I also realize that there are many people in the United States that are in the same boat. And about 15 years ago, I was in the same boat. I lost my job, which had health insurance and monthly salary and that sort of thing, and I was making a lot of money, and therefore that means I was spending a lot of money. So I had debt, and I had a house that in 2008 was worth less than it was in 2007. So that didn't make me feel too good. But the point is that I was basically living month to month, and I didn't have any savings. So I know what that's like. And then I was a consultant, meaning I was unemployable. So I was a consultant. I was an IT consultant, and I also had a business down in Mexico. And if I made money that day, I basically ate that day. Especially in Mexico, based on like what I could sell stuff, because I couldn't sell my consulting services for $125 an hour down in Mexico. That wasn't happening. But up in the U.S., it's very reasonable. And guys would like fly me out. Like I flew out to Tucson and like did a project for like 2 or 3 weeks. Was making great money. And basically the 2 months prior to that, I was praying to God that the guy in Tucson would hire me and fly me out there so I could make good money. So I was out of work, right? And so it feast or famine. When you're a consultant, if you don't work, you don't eat. So that occurs a lot. Enrique's full of coffee now. Cool. We got to figure out a way to have us both on the screen, because I think it would be really helpful to a lot of people to get the Thai and the Philippine perspective at the same time. So hopefully we can figure out the technology for that. So Dozer says in Thailand you can't drink from the tap, need to get bottled water, assuming pH is the same. I will tell you right now that the last 3 condos I've stayed in, and as well as my current one, I take tap water and I make ice cubes, and I'm drinking them right now. I believe that the tap water in this building is fine to drink. I believe, I don't know this for a fact, they filter it. I don't know that for sure. The last condo I stayed in was infinitely newer than this one, and they absolutely filtered the water coming in. And I drank it out of the tap. Like I would just, I gotta take some, aspirin or whatever. Of course I brush my teeth and, I don't worry about it. Now, in the Philippines, if I want to experience the medical system, I drink tap water in the Philippines. How do I know that? Because I've accidentally drunken tap water in the Philippines and I ended up in the hospital 3 times. Because if one's good, yeah, and it was coming out both ends, and oh boy, I fell in love with Gracie 1,000 times over during that experience. She literally saved my life. I mean, what am I going to do? Say, oh yeah, I know what to do. I didn't realize you basically need to have a partner, accompany you to the hospital. Because sometimes if you need medication, they'll charge you for it, but they won't necessarily give it to you. They're like, oh, yeah, here's a prescription. Well, where's the pharmacy? Oh, you just got to walk down the street and go. And so what, the nurse isn't going to do? The doc, they're not going to bring me medication? No. But here's what you should take. Now, I was in the hospital. I had an IV. They didn't make me outsource that or get that from Amazon. They actually, charged me like any hospital. They charge me. But yeah, you need a partner, and she was. Whew, thank God. That was in Palawan, in Puerto Princesa. Enrique says, in the Philippines, if you have well water on site, can drink it. In the metro areas, it tastes awful even if you bolt it. Even if you boil it. Sorry. I got a little reflection going on. So bottled water is the way to go. Absolutely. It's the only stuff that I drink. Now, Enrique says he's used tap water for soup in Vietnam. Always chew up the ice cubes, no issues in 8 years. Absolutely. When I was in Vietnam, I was in Ho Chi Minh City, Da Nang, and Phu Quoc, which is a little island. And I never thought about it. Now, I mean, honestly, the main reason I buy bottled water is for the convenience. Now, okay, that's the first reason. The second reason is the taste. It does taste better, right? But the good news for me is that ever since I've been coming to Thailand, I haven't really worried about that. I absolutely worry about it in the Philippines. Now, at the farm, Gracie does drink, like, bottled water. They get these giant jugs of it. But her parents drink water that comes from the stream out back. And I bet if I were to drink that, it would probably have microbials in it that would damage me and make me flush out my system faster than I'd like and lose quite a bit of weight immediately. So I don't drink tap water in the Philippines. Absolutely not. I want to make sure I get to this, and we're basically caught up. Caesarillion? Is that how you pronounce that? I'm going to say Caesar for short. The do-it-yourself store has little things you put on the water tap to filter it. He got one. It's supposed to last a month, and this is in Bangkok. Yeah. So there's a store here actually called Mr. DIY, do-it-yourself, and it's kind of like a hardware store in like an older hardware store, like an Ace hardware store or something like that in the U.S. They'll have, they'll sell towels at the same time that they sell forks and knives and plates, but they'll also sell like hot glue guns and light bulbs and everything. So, and then they have filters, right, for your tap. And I'm not saying it's not a good idea. I mean, trust me, I don't drink tap water here. I drink bottled water. And if I want to fill up my more bottles, I go down to the parking structure, and they have one of those giant machines that basically filters water. And the cool thing is that they put a new filter in it about every 2 months, and then they date it and sign it and stuff. So there's actually, I like that because, it's not necessarily the amount of time, it's more the mileage. So you really should replace the thing after, say, like 10,000 gallons versus, 10,000 days or something like that, right? So, Caesar says he drinks the tap water, but it has a slight aftertaste. I completely agree. I will tell you that when I grew up, where I lived for the previous 6 years to coming here in Coronado, so San Diego has filtered water. It then goes into a tube, and it gets to the island of Coronado, where we filter it again. And then we spray it on our lawn. The same water that is absolutely safe and tastes pretty darn good out of your tap that you use to drink, to make tea, to bathe, to flush the toilet, and to water your lawn. It is not necessarily the best system, but the fact that I can guarantee myself that I will never get sick drinking tap water, I suppose that's worth it, right? But I always found that sort of interesting. When Gracie and I were in Hong Kong, the bathroom had, I want to say, at least 2, if not 3 different sources of water. And I'll tell you why I know that. One of the sources was basically like recycled water, and that went into the toilet. It didn't smell or anything, but it was like, hey, not non-potable, this is just for the toilet kind of thing, not filtered. And then they had shower water. So I think there was 2. Then they had shower water and like sink water. And the shower water, sink water, you could absolutely drink. And I know this because she sent us a note and she said, hey, the water may go off. Because it was Airbnb. And I said, okay, fine. So I go into and it wasn't like, the electricity goes out, it, right? Water goes out, you don't know it until the next time you go get water. So we're there, and I think I went into the bathroom or something and went to flush the toilet. And it flushes, right, but then it empties. And I'm like, oh, okay, so the water's off. But of course, what do you do after you use the toilet? You immediately go to the sink, turn the water on, and wash your hands. So I said, oh, yeah, there's no more water. But of course, I didn't register that immediately because I'm so brilliant, I went over to the sink and I started washing my hands. Well, the water came out. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's like, when there's like a lot of pressure and like this pressure's just going to go down. And the water came out, and it came out, and I'm like, huh. So then I go over to the shower, and turn that on, water's coming out. I go back to the toilet, and I'm like, on, off. I'm like, wait, oh, and then I read the sign, right? It's like, hey, this is a good idea. Now, you probably got to put in twice the amount of piping, maybe, but I'll tell you what, considering it was Hong Kong, they probably did that like 30 years ago at least. This building was old, as are many in Hong Kong. And is expensive as Singapore with not the quality around you. Hong Kong is an amazing city, and it's pretty damn nice, but it's really expensive, and a lot of things are the same or more expensive for what you get than in Singapore. Cooking is fine and ice too, but commercially filtered water is best and super cheap. It is absolutely super cheap. So I believe it is 1 baht per liter. It might even be that. So basically 3 cents for a liter of water in this machine, and they're everywhere. And, so if you go up to one, you're like, that looks a little dirty, I'm not feeling it. Okay, well, walk 100 meters, and there'll be another one. And the cool thing is that while they sell tons of bottled water at a 7-Eleven, obviously, many times right in front of the 7-Eleven, there's also one of those water machines, So, yeah, the water over here is plentiful, even though there's a drought. I'm thinking, actually, what time is it now? It's like 10 o'clock. They said starting around 10, there might be a chance of thunder showers here in Bangkok. So the other guys here that are from Bangkok or that are living in Bangkok, I don't know about you, but I got to Thailand November 21st, and it has basically not rained since I got here. Now, it rained a couple of weeks ago for like an hour, maybe, but it wasn't like rain. And there were thunder, and there was some thunder. Yeah, that's true. And then about a week before that. So it's rained like 2 or 3 times, but it hasn't rained for a full day. There hasn't been Southeast Asia rain where it's like, oh yeah, we're getting a little bit of drizzle. No. There's going to be 6 inches of water everywhere outdoors if you go outside right now. Wait 30 minutes and it'll all drain. But of course, in the 30 minutes, all the news outlets will go outside and take pictures of how horrible the flooding is in Bangkok. Yeah, well, wait an hour, bro. It'll go down. Of course it's going to flood. Ricky says Mr. D for short. Absolutely. DIY. Mr. D. I love it. Caesar says he got sick from street chicken that was not well cooked. No big deal, but not nice. Yeah, absolutely. It's not one of those things that, oh my God, this is going to do permanent damage. But, it could cause some abrasion. That's for sure. And you know what? I don't know if I've said this in a long time, but I remember like my guys who worked for me. This one guy, Zach, he had a really sensitive stomach, and he would frequently have food poisoning. Or at least that's what he said he had. I mean, who knows? Maybe he just forgot that he was allergic to shrimp and then ate shrimp like every 2 weeks and was like, oh my God, I got food poisoning again. Yeah, you went to the same restaurant, you had the same shrimp, whatever. But the point is that, yeah, I mean, uncooked chicken, getting sick for that in the United States, I mean, that's not, you've heard people do that before, right? Absolutely happens. But I will tell you that in the Philippines, my experience, and again, it's not as significant as Rike's because I haven't lived there for like months and months at a time. I think the longest I've stayed in the Philippines was 3 weeks, and it certainly wasn't in one spot. It was moving around. Rike says in the Philippines, 70 pesos for 2 liters, but only 40 pesos for a 5-gallon jug. That brings up a very interesting thing that also occurs here in Thailand. Jim Jets, hi Mike. Speaking of water, I went to the biggest hardware in Australia and couldn't buy a bum gun since everyone brought all the toilet paper. How I missed the bum gun. Any of you that are not familiar with what we mean over here in Southeast Asia, as a white guy who has found panacea in the restroom because, oh my God, how did I ever live with one of these before? How did I live without one of these before? You find that bum gun on your first trip over here to Southeast Asia or Thailand or the Philippines, and you're like, dude, what the hell have I been doing up to this point? This is ridiculous. Now, we've heard of bidets, right? And in the U.S., you absolutely hear of bidets. And it's basically like in fact, I was in Spain when I was in Barcelona. The hotel I was in had a bidet. And it's like a second toilet, and they had toilet paper, but they also had special, kind of like face cloth size towels that were on hangers next to the bidet. So, again, you spray yourself off, and basically the only thing you use toilet paper for regularly in Thailand and the Philippines is to dry yourself. It doesn't get soiled very frequently. Let's just say that. I'm not going to get into depth, but yeah. So that's what we refer to as the bum gun over here, or the sprayer, or in the United States, I believe at Home Depot. When I got mine after coming here the first time and then going home, literally it was absolutely less than a week that I got my butt. I went to Home Depot, no pun intended, to get my first spray bum gun thing. Portable bidet is what the generic term was for it. And there were like 4 or 5 manufacturers. And here's the crazy thing is I'm like, okay, I've never seen one of these before in my life is what I'm thinking. Only time I ever saw it, first time Thailand, and then obviously there are many places here in Southeast Asia. Not as common in Vietnam, but common for sure, as in Thailand and Thailand. The Philippines, yeah, they're common. But I've also been plenty of places in the Philippines where there's no bum gun, there's a big jug of water. And so doing that is not, again, it's usually like 1,000 degrees outside and you dry off pretty quickly, but it takes a little bit of finesse. So I go into Home Depot and I'm like, okay, well, I've never seen these before. Like, I'm going to clearly have to order these in my mind. I'm going to have to order one of these from Thailand, some store in Thailand, and I'll have it shipped over here, and it'll cost me $30 for the device and $30 in shipping, but I'll have my bum gun, right? So I walk down the aisle in Home Depot, and there's like 4 different manufacturers of this thing, portable bidet. And it's got, one of them had like just the plastic tubes, that was cheaper. And then one of them had like a really nice metal braided one, and I ended up getting that because what I found out is the cheaper ones, because of the water pressure, then the water pressure fills up the hose, so like the first squirt, it kind of like the first squirt of the garden hose, it kind of wakes you up. but yeah, that is that eliminates any sort of hoarding of toilet paper in this part of the world. In this part of the globe, nobody's hoarding toilet paper, and I can tell you that while small sample size of locals that I've interfaced with, they think the fact that the U.S. is hoarding toilet paper, of all things, like in other words, that's making the news. That's making the news over here, that the United States is hoarding toilet paper from Costco in big baskets of 56 packs. Not the fact that we were like, no, it does now, but when that was like global news, not the fact that we don't have masks, or we don't have face shields, or we don't have ventilators. No, the U.S. globally, the news is we're out of toilet paper. So, again, small sample size, but they're like, okay, you guys are ridiculous. I mean, we're the laughing stock, globally. And they're like, so rather than freak out about like what may happen, like for some reason toilet paper might not be available and you're going out to like get a lot of it, here's a tip. Stop talking to people a foot away and do what the discussion on February 1st was basically, do what you guys are going to do at the beginning of April out of panic, but do it now. That was basically the thinking from a lot of this part of the world, and we didn't. So, and again, I say we because I'm absolutely an American, okay? I have a U.S. passport. I believe it is the best passport I could possibly get. Unless I had a lot of money and then I get a Singapore passport or whatever. You can get residency in many countries pretty easily. You can get passports and citizenship in other countries various ways. Let's just say that. I can get into that. That's a totally different vlog. Rike says, love the bidet, maybe too much. You got this. Absolutely. Yeah. Too much of a good thing, right? What else is happening over here in Thailand? They also had delivery services over here that were a lot more common than they were in the U.S. So in the U.S., my experience, again, that was one of my things that I basically experienced for the first time here in Thailand. And what I mean by that is, like, if I want a cheeseburger, like, I can have it delivered for a very reasonable price. If I want to just order a cheeseburger from McDonald's in the United States, it's going to cost me probably more in the Uber Eats than just to have that. But here, labor's cheap and everyone's on motorbikes that cost nothing to run and that sort of thing. So, so they started coming up with these apps, these food delivery apps. So Food Panda, if you've heard of that, obviously, if you've heard any discussion about Southeast Asia or Asia in general, you hear us probably refer to Grab, and we make the statement, Grab is the Uber of over here. And just so you know, Grab is a lot larger than Uber. And in many markets, there is no Uber because Grab bought them. And so, and I remember when Uber was sticking their chest out over here in this part of the world, as well as China is a great example. Didi, D-I-D-I, is like probably the most common. There's other ones too. It's probably the most common ride-hailing app on your phone, Didi. And so, Uber has a ton of funding, and as far as I know, zero profit. They're, bleeding money. But it's a great service, right? I love it. I love what's the pink mustache? Lyft. I love Lyft. even though they don't have the big fuzzy prink mustaches in the front of the cars anymore. That bums me out, but they were getting stolen, and then it was like, hey, look at me, I'm not a taxi driver, and so the taxi drivers were like, let's just beat up everyone who's got a pink mustache in their car. So I get it. I understand why they stopped doing that. And so Uber was getting money and funding, right? And so the story that I have read several times and heard others talk about is that Uber, basically came over to China. They came over to, parts of Asia, and they stuck their chest out and they said, hey, you know what? We're going to put $35 million into this thing. So, buckle up. And of course, the response to that was like, okay, well, that's fine. And so SoftBank was like, okay, we're going to put $250 million behind this, and we're going to buy you. So there is no Uber anymore around here. It's all Grab. The first time I used a ride-hailing service in Bangkok, it was Uber. The first time I used a ride-hailing service in Vietnam, it was Uber. Those don't exist anymore. It's all Grab. And then, so Rike brings up a good Traveler. What's going on, buddy? Hey, so I met him just south of here in Prachuap Khiri Khan, but he's living in Tennessee right now. So, and where he's living, I would submit that the behavior is quite sane. At least that was some of the reports that he gave me. So, hello, Traveler. Good to see you, buddy. One of my long-term subs, the only sub that I've ever met, I believe, meaning... Rike is I've met many of you that are subscribers, but the point is that I kind of knew you from other ways. Whereas Traveler, I'm down with Gracie. We're vacationing basically down in Prachuap Khiri Khan, which is if you've heard of Hua Hin, right? So that's a pretty famous spot. That's a beach town south of here. It's famous because basically the king would go there on vacation, and so it's become a very big expat community. Tons of golf courses. It's way too white for me. It's like Boca Raton, Florida. There's like what was that place where Jerry's parents lived in Del Boca Vista? It's like Del Boca Vistas everywhere, and blue light special dinners at 5 p.m. and that's not my style. In between here and there is Cha Am, which is a great city. And if any of you follow retirecheap.asia or JC, him and Nat, they live in Cha Am. We love Cha Am. Anyway, so south of there is another area. It's a town as well as a province, which is Prachuap Khiri Khan. So she and I are walking down the street, basically at the night market right in front of the beach. And this guy comes up and starts talking to me. And then it's like, oh, hey, what's going on? And so we start talking, and I was like, oh my God, this is like the first time like a subscriber, and I was like, I felt amazing. I sent a message to Thailand Rob, and I said, dude, I just had the first subscriber experience. Oh my God, and he's got like 50,000 subs. Rike's got 51,000 now. Congratulations, buddy. So I haven't had the meet subscriber experience. And I was like, oh my God, I was like a schoolgirl. I was like, oh, this is totally cool. So anyway, so that's Traveler. So he's awesome. He's a really good guy. Let's see what Traveler says. Traveler says, if you don't test, you don't know. Ghost virus. And then Caesar says, it's just the flu. Robin Cox, morning from Denmark. Right on. Man, you want to talk about an appropriate, educated society? Whew. You guys got it going on up there. I knew a couple guys from Denmark, actually, business guys that were doing very similar stuff to what I was doing, IT, data center, that sort of thing. And very well-educated population. First time on the live stream and really enjoying it. Thanks a lot, Robin. I really appreciate it. That's really awesome. That's really cool. Okay, so I can see him there. I just wanted to make sure I got caught up. Caesar says, how many of those dying are homeless? They don't tell you. No, they don't. And that's an interesting point, Caesar. And Traveler says, I'm a movie star, Mike. So checks in the mail on that one. No, well, okay, to be fair, yes, I have done a movie before. Short film. And no, I'm not alluding to some joke about, like you porn. No, it wasn't anything silly like that. But I have made ones before for IT technology groups like that and that sort of thing. When I was the president of this, we formed this big organization that was basically a global IT user group. And so I would fly around the world and start up like local sort of chapters, right? And it's, you can imagine like Apple, right? So they have like the Apple users group or the iPhone users group, So imagine basically making one of those, but less of a consumer technology, more of an IT data center technology. So anyway, yes, I've been in a movie before with a Chewbacca guy in a Chewbacca outfit. It was kind of funny. So that's really cool, Denmark. I really appreciate it. Tell your friends. Please subscribe. If you don't, all of the other people are like, oh my God. I mean, I heard your eyes roll. But Robin, here's the cool thing. You'll hear it for the first time. I need subs. I don't need just subs. I need 1,001 subs so that I can actually get some of the features of YouTube. Not the least of which is the community tab, which I used to have, and then they took it away for all of us losers that don't have 1,000 subs yet. Anyway, I'm just kind of joking. I really doesn't matter, Joe. Traveler says Foreigner Joe, who's also another YouTube Thai vlogger. He moved to Prachuap Khiri Khan and loves it. Absolutely. In fact, if you guys want to find out about Foreigner Joe, one of his, I think it is the most recent, Mike, if not one of the most recent videos that Foreigner Joe did is on his motorbike, him and Gift, his girlfriend, driving from their little cottage they have that's right down the street from the beach, which is sort of north, really, of it's north of the Prachuap Khiri Khan sign, let's just say that. But that's a really awesome beach. It's a great walking beach. It's not real deep, it's certainly at high tide, even though over here the tides don't change significantly, right, because it's closer to the equator. But yeah, he's got a really great spot. And right down the street from where he lives is a state park. You've probably been there, Mike. And I love it. Absolutely love it. Gracie and I, when we went down there, did videos of that, and I fell in love with it. And it is inexpensive, but again, it's not Bangkok, right? So if I got an earache down there, then the experience might have been a little bit less elegant. I probably would have gotten great treatment. But here, I basically walked down the street, got on a train for $1, and went to a world-class hospital. And the doctor cleaned out my ear. And if you want to watch that whole video on YouTube here, it's on my channel. Just take a look. It's one of the last, probably just scroll down 4 or 5 videos. The short answer is I got world-class health care for no money. And there was nobody in the hospital at the time. So anyway, I like the infrastructure that's available here in Bangkok. It's actually, if I had to pick a place to be, locked down under curfew, I'm okay with Bangkok, because actually back to the topic that I brought up a few moments ago, or maybe 20, because of my ADHD, delivery services. I can have everything delivered. Now, as far as I know, in fact, okay, so I did get a message from Grab Food. I know Rike used that too. So I don't know about what's going on in the Philippines with the curfew, but Grab Food, 24 hours before the curfew was enacted, they said, hey, look, so we're not delivering after 8 p.m. And so, the last order, if you will come in at 8 p.m. And then that's fair. So there's a little bit less of a time. I mean, for the most part, especially in Bangkok, you could get something delivered at 4 in the morning. It would take a little longer, but there are guys out there. I've walked out, couldn't sleep, right? Just a couple months ago, maybe, walked out in front of my condo, walked out in the street, and, there's 4 guys, there's 3, 4 in the morning. And there's 3 or 4 guys just sitting there on their motorbikes, and I walk out and they all stood up, they wave their hand. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm going for a walk, but they're ready to service you, man. There's motorbike taxis everywhere around here. So Caesar says, wait, Rike says he played Batman in a company promo video. Very nice. That's cool. I'm caught up. I wish it would. I wish I could somehow modify this. It's basically just a URL plugin to one of the restreaming services that I use. So I stream from here into restream.io, and then from there it streams into about 7 or 8 platforms. The cool thing is that when it streams into those, it then aggregates the chat back over here. There. Over there. So I get YouTube, I get Facebook, and all that. Instagram, I would also get. Oh no, I don't get Instagram, but I do get Periscope, and so therefore, and if you say, oh, nobody uses Periscope. Well, basically, Periscope is the engine that Twitter uses. So this is basically being streamed live on Twitter right now, from Periscope. And if you clicked on it, then you can open it up in the app, and yeah, it's not as popular as YouTube. Trust me, I get it. So they're cutting them off at 8 p.m. for food delivery here. And let's see, today's Sunday. So my next food delivery is Wednesday. And my last delivery was, I think, like last Tuesday. So, I mean, I was going like every 3 or 4 days and then just having a little bit. And this last time said, no, I'm going to. So I got like 2,000 baht of food coming. It was like $60. I'm probably going to run out of milk today or tomorrow, so I'll just go downstairs. There's a 7-Eleven. There's a 7-Eleven every 100 meters in Thailand, so I'm not too worried about being able to buy milk and groceries. And they are always stocked. Always stocked. I think they have 8,500 of them. 8,500 7-Elevens in Thailand. It's amazing. Caesar says, it's cool when you film the beach on a beautiful day. I never get tired of that. Yep. Me too, man. I can tell you right now that is the only thing that I am consciously bummed that I don't have at my disposal right now, which is a beach. And I don't know whether it's so much that I can't go to the beach, meaning, or that in other words, I can't just like walk to the beach, like there's no proximity. I think maybe I'm more bummed about the fact that I have like this pseudo loss of freedom where I basically can't just like get on a train and head down to, well, Prachuap Khiri and go for a hour-long walk on the beach in the middle of the day, because no Thai is going to be out in the middle of the hot sun, and I'm out there. I got the whole beach to myself at 2 in the afternoon because it is easily 100 degrees and the sun is like daggers. To someone who's from Southeast Asia, they're like, no, I can't get my skin darker. I don't know. I think it was Gracie. It was definitely a girl from Southeast Asia. I was having a discussion with her about the skin thing. And there's many things that you like learn for the first time when you come over here to Southeast Asia. The first is how white guys, purposely go out into the sun to change the pigment of our skin, to make it darker. We apply lotion so that we don't die, but at the end of the day, when I was a kid, younger, I mean, when I was a kid, if you had walked up to me and said, hey, dude, do you have any SPF 50? I would be like, yeah, right. Like, what, are you going to the sun? Like, are you going to Mars? No, it's SPF 50. That'll never, right? And now you just buy those at 7-Eleven. So either we got more conscious or our skin got more sensitive. Who knows? But I used to put on lotion. I'll never forget Banana Boat suntan lotion, suntan oil, and the tagline or the writing on the bottle for banana, like 1,000,000 tiny prisms. So, I mean, I would go to the beach. For some reason, girls seem to do this more than guys. I think guys like just wanted to buy the actual stuff that was made for it. But I would see girls when I was growing up in high school, they'd be at the beach, like, because, you only get like 3 months of decent summer when you grow up in New England. So you kind of take advantage of it when you can. So the girls go to the beach, and they would just put on baby oil, and just lay there, for hours, right? And the goal was, and you would joke around about your tan lines, or if you got a sunburn, so purposely changing the pigment of your skin. So anyway, so I'm having a similar discussion with that, like one of the first times I'm over here, because I find it fascinating, right? It's like, oh my God. So like we white people like darker skin, and you dark people want whiter skin. Okay, whatever. And I understand the social reasons for it. It doesn't matter, really. But the point is that occurs. And so I was like, where you're from, that sort of came up. And I said, Southern California, talking about this a little bit more. I said, I don't know if you know this, but obviously, there's arguably like more sun in California, right? Like if I said, hey, I'm from Canada, she'd probably be, okay, yeah, there's not beach, there's no sun. People's impression of the word California over here is that everyone is wealthy. False. How many homeless people there are in San Francisco? It's where Hollywood is. It's where movies are made. It's where it's Baywatch. Like every day is Baywatch, right? Not everybody. It's gross generalization. But the point is that when you say California over here, there's a certain picture people have in their minds. And so I said, well, as you might guess, people go to the beach in California and they lay out to get. I said, but also in that environment, People spend a lot of money in comparison to what that amount would be over here. 3 days' wage over here. To stand in a booth about the size of a telephone pole and get sprayed down with brown water. Brown oil to get a spray-on tan. And she looks at me like, this guy, come on. And I just Googled it, and I said, look, it's right down the street from my house when I was living in La Mesa in San Diego. They had a, tanning salon, right? And they had the big thing with the glass, fluorescent tubes, right? You lay in the booth, and I've totally done that before. But it seems like it was more common for women. They would go in and they would get the spray tan. I remember going to like some event or whatever, and I was, black tie. I'm in like a tux, and the girl I was with, she's in like some amazing gown, but she got a spray tan, right? So she would look healthier or wealthier or however much we label it, but browner, purposely. And by the time I got home, when I took off all of my, to put it away, I had like her brown on me because I would touch her arm, or we would like hold each other for photos or whatever, and like my sleeves all had this like brown film on them. I'm like, oh my god! Like if I didn't know what this was, I would be like, I'm as dirty as Linus from the Peanuts series. What the heck is wrong with me? But anyway, yeah. So we spend money to get sprayed with brown oil. You don't do that over here. So anyway, my point is that during the day, when there's a lot of sun, it is only Child Beach because I don't have to share it with any Thais, that's for sure. And I like to vacation traditionally in places that are more Thai vacation. Like, I'll go to Phuket, where there's tourists from everywhere. But I really love Pachop Currycon, and specifically down there. If you're from around here and you know the spot I'm talking about, Ao Manao Beach is probably one of my more favorite spots in the whole entire world because it's like this horseshoe beach that is on the, I want to say air base, pretty much, and so, but down south of here. And I love Ao Manao Beach. So anyway. The live beach cam is a nice touch. Thanks, Rike. I wish, actually, I do have, I want to say, I have a live cam of what's going on outside my, I think it's 105. Let me see if it's either 105 or 104. It's just an IP cam that I have outside my door here. And if there's still batteries in the, no, I guess not. Anyway, yeah. So I have a lot of us who've done this live chat before with me, we refer to it as the pigeon cam because it's out there annoying me. This actually, in the background, this is a shot of Boracay, by the way. And actually, if you guys want to see, how I talk about Gracie's farm. So let me show you. Instead of pigeon cam is cool too. Yeah, I completely agree. So here's a picture of there we go. So that's Gracie's farm. So that's Gracie's backyard. That's her parents' backyard in Hamandan. And I don't know about you guys, but I think that looks gorgeous. And that's a picture that you just take and you just walk out the back door and take that picture. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, I'm a fan. It's pretty neat. Now, to be fair, I also realize the amount of energy, okay, when you say hard work, working on a car, changing a transmission in a Ford by yourself, that's hard work. Farming this rice is hard work. They use nothing mechanical. They use one of those things with the very green, right, Caesar? It is cool. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, thanks, man. And then, I'll get to the thing in actually, Caesar says, I saw a retired guy in Jomtien that had a perfect all-over golden tan. Cool, laid back. I'm trying to make sure. Yeah, laid back living. Absolutely, I'm a big fan of laid back living too. But yeah, so this is Gracie's backyard. The way that they farm that is that they use a carabao, which is, if you don't know, that's basically like a giant cow, bull kind of thing, right? And they strap on the roto not roto, the tiller, right? It's like that giant, let me see, I make it so I can get my full sort of, so it's got like that giant point to it, and it's like a big, giant metal thing, and then it's got a curve, right? And so you slam that into the soil, and then you've got kind of the, you know, the wooden stuff that comes out. I don't know what it's called. I know it's not a sickle, because that's and then you hold that, and then you basically command the carabao to pull you through the back 40. Like, she literally has back 40. And that's how you farm. And that's how they farm in 2020. They don't use a Briggs and Stratton powered thing. They use a carabao. They use an animal. And so that's hard work. That is what's referred to. That's what's referred to from guys that do this for a living in a ergonomically designed desk for fear of me suing them for getting carpal tunnel. That is my version of hard work. That is a lot of hard work. And you don't get weekends off. You get done when all the rice is done. Robin says, certainly I will spread the word about your channel. I work as a radio host here. Hold on. Work as a radio host, I think she meant here. I apologize. I don't know whether Robin is man or woman, so I completely apologize. I have a very good female friend of mine in San Diego. She's a PhD, and we used to do classes together. Her name was Robin. And then I also got a guy who is brilliant with my finances, and his name's Robin. Both spelled the same way. So anyway, radio host, very welcome to come on my show talking about your channel. Your audio is really good. Thank you. You want to know what? I bought this microphone. This is $8. So when you hear from someone who's not got a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, who's worked in the audio business for 20 years, say, oh, I can't make the audio any good. It's the damn microphone. No. Trust me. It's the audio processing. You just suck at tuning audio processing. I can make tin cans sound pretty damn close to a Neumann. And if you know anything about broadcast, you know that Neumann is the gold standard of overpriced microphones that sound spectacular. And also, there is an enormous amount of white noise behind me, and I could squelch that, but I prefer being cool than to having that thing. But Robin, absolutely, let's chat big time, because if you've got a radio show, I would love to get involved in that. Because if you don't know, Robin, I was in radio for years. Radio face, can't you tell? But the point is that you know how they say you're an expert if you've done something for 10 years? I can literally, from absolutely ashes to having top 10 ratings in any market, I can start a radio station and I can grow it. I'm not bragging. This is just, and so do all of the other people that worked with me in that business for years. Kirk Bennett, early on in the broadcast, he was on Facebook, and he can do the same thing. Like literally with our eyes closed, we could start a radio station, we could sell spots, we could get non-traditional revenue, I could put up a directional FM antenna array, I could license it, I could do everything. And so I love radio the way it was in the 80s and 90s. Because it was fun back then, man. It was really fun back then. So if you're doing anything like that, Robin, I'd be honored to hang out and do some of that. It'd be really cool. I don't know. And so what I'll do on the playback is, and if you guys want to too, where Robin's comments are, if you're watching on YouTube, to the right of his name, there are 3 dots. Click on that and go to channel. I assume that on the Robin Cox channel is where you do the broadcasts, right? If you want to throw a link up there, dude, that would be awesome. Yeah, for $8, not too bad, right? It's actually a condenser mic. To give you an idea of how generic this microphone is, okay, first of all, inside of here, I have a business card on the windscreen. And I have that because I don't want it to pick up on both sides. Over here, there's a fan over there. There's a fan over there. If I get really hot, I turn that fan on. It's constant white noise. So this business card inside here makes it so that I don't get a lot of that. But I want to give you, just to give you an example of how generic this microphone is, there's the brand name. It's condenser microphone. So, this is the FF666 series. And if you guys have ever shopped on Alibaba, and this is going to make noise when I put this over there, sorry. If you ever shopped on Alibaba, you know that you can basically order anything. Like you can order, well, you can't order a MacBook Pro. You can order oh my God, I just forgot who makes the MacBook Pros. I forgot again. The company that basically makes all the iPhones and all of the, I want to say something like with an F, like Fortinet, but I know that's not right. It's a network company. Anyway, if anybody knows the company that makes the products for Apple, you can buy one of their brand laptops. And trust me, it looks exactly like a MacBook Pro, because to the left of where they make the MacBook Pros on the assembly line, they make this. So the point is, you can buy anything on there. You can buy a bunch of generic stuff. So many times, if I want something and I really don't care about the quality, or I want to buy 10 of them, I buy one. And there is no manufacturer on it, because it is up to you to buy. Well, their fantasy is that you buy a shipping container full of it, but before they ship it to you, they put your logo and your company on it, right? So anyway, so this is the SP666 series. Great question. Do I have any regrets moving to Thailand? Let me just make sure. Airbase Wing 5, thank you very much, Traveler. I really appreciate it. Also, Robin, if you're listening, throw a link up to your, well, I mean, unless it's your channel, the Robin Cox channel. But I'd love to make sure that I get I want to know how to get there. I want to look at your shows. Traveler also says the beach in PKK, which is what they refer to Prachuap Khiri PKK, being used to quarantine those that have come back from South Korea. Interesting. I didn't know that. That's really interesting news. Good to know. And nobody can go to the base at the present time. Yeah, I knew that they had closed that a while ago. In fact, Foreigner Joe, when he did a video of him driving around, he drove up to the air base, to the entrance to the air base, which is a very common sort of route to take, right? And then you take a left and you go right down, like literally on the beach. So, Stepping Out says, Nan used to use a water buffalo. Absolutely. In Thailand, you use buffalo. And in the Philippines, you use a carabao. And that makes the rice that all of us buy in Costco. I mean, it's and so once they get all of that rice, then what they do is they take a tarp that is approximately 20 years old, and they lay it out on the street where cars drive. And if it's an asphalt 2-lane road, then they just take up one side of the road and they lay this tarp down and they put all of the rice on it, and it dries there for however long it takes the rice to dry. And if you're coming along in a car and you see rice in front of you, you don't drive through it like a weirdo. You stop, and if there's cars coming the other way, you wait, and then you drive around the rice and you keep going. And if you believe that your car, like if you're driving a motorhome, you don't have motorhomes over here. If you're driving a car that, kind of like there's the wave of air that goes through it. In my experience, I've driven this, and I've also seen other cars drive this way. You go past the rice, you slow down when you get there, because you don't want to blow the guy's rice off of his tarp as it's drying, because otherwise it won't make it to the Costco in San Clemente. Hippies, Caesar. I'm not following. I apologize, man. I know I'm behind. The mic does sound great for $8. It actually also sounds pretty good for about, let's say it was 40, 30. It sounds okay for 30. It's not a SM7, okay? And it's not an RE20, and but it's pretty darn good. And I've got it plugged into a $100, basically, because I got to buy it over here and I had to pay duty on it. Behringer single channel mixer. I've got the bass boosted up a little bit. I got some compression on there, but This sounds interesting about your work in radio. I am so with you on the radio format of the 80s and 90s. Absolutely. There is no better thing that I can hear relative to radio than, I think his name was Charlie Van Dyke, if you guys know anything about radio. He was like the voice of Z90. And he was one of these guys that if you hear his voice, you're like, okay, that guy has 9 testicles and he carries them around in a wheelbarrow, because nobody's voice is that low. And the reason I say that is, I meet these guys in radio, right? Because it's like you really want to meet, like, in San Diego, Shotgun Tom Kelly, he was a very local guy. Shadow Stevens, these sort of household names, maybe, if you're into radio in the U.S. So these guys, Rick Dees, right? Worked with him and his son, actually. Really cool studio. Rick's got a really cool studio up in Hollywood. The point is that I met Charlie Van Dyke, and he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, Mike, how you doing?" And I was ready for him to say, "Hi, Mike, Charlie, rated R." And then he got really close to the microphone and he's like, "Mike, maybe you and I should go get some coffee." And I was like, "Are you talk that way? Like, you talk that way to the bus driver?" I'm like, "Oh my God, dude, your voice is amazing." I figured there was processing and like all of this stuff, like in a totally non-echoic chamber. This guy was amazing. I was like, oh my God. Anyway, so when I hear a promo that was done in like the 80s or 90s, and it's serving the universe from high atop the Empire State Building, Z100, New York. I hear something like that, I get chills. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so in radio. Because, radio is an interesting gig. Basically, 1% of the people that work in radio make any money. Like the guys that have the morning shows that are like number one in each market, they're making good money. But you start out, or the way you started out when I started in radio, is you work the night shift. They're like, "Okay, dude, you've never been on the air, you've got no ratings, no one knows who the hell you are, and you could totally screw something up." So basically you're working midnight to 6 a.m., which is awesome because when you start working out in radio, you have an hourly wage, and so you want the longest shift. Most air shifts are about 4 hours long, and you're like, sweet, I got the 6-hour one. And when I started, $10 an hour, 92.5, The Flash in San Diego, and would work midnight to 6 a.m., and then I would leave the station and I would go sleep for about 1 hour in the parking lot of Mesa Community College in San Diego, California. And then I would get up and go to my 8 o'clock class. And then at some point during the day, the other classes I would take for my degree at San Diego State, I would go to those. And then at some point during the day, I would either drink a lot of Mountain Dew to stay awake, or I would drink a lot of coffee, or I would sleep in the library on the couches. And then I would do it all over again. And I would do my homework, and then about 11 o'clock, I would leave for the station, because you always want to get there early to change over. And it was one of the best times of my life, man. I was sitting there. I had this tens of thousands of dollars mixer in front of me. Top 25 market, right? And, we were doing well. We had like a 3 or 4 share. And simply all that means is that basically, for the sake of argument, if you have a 4 share, 4% of the people that listen to radio listen to your station. Okay? It's much more complicated than that, but that's sort of the simplistic numbers that they use. Hippies plowing for Buffalo. Got it. Yeah. Totally, dude. I mean, seriously, like if you were to see someone do this and it was happening in the United States, you would be like, okay, I'm either in Pennsylvania and this is like the Amish, or I'm in the Philippines. Rike said, "Can't drive on the rice. Now you tell me." Yeah, absolutely. That's why there's brown rice. Haha, bum bum bum, because it's dirty. But Robin Cox also says, "I love live shows where the listeners can hear the DJ having fun in the studio. The DJ's having fun in the studio." Let me tell you something, dude. You do a morning show and you love radio, you are having fun in the studio. And the majority of the fun, some of it's broadcast, but the majority of the real fun happens when the microphones are turned off. I tell you right now, the best interviews I've ever done, one of the coolest interviews I ever did with Alanis Morissette was when she was like new. Like, no, put it this way, she was so new that the majority of the DJs didn't know how to pronounce her name. So I remember like doing an air shift, and her CD like just first came out, and it was like the 11th time we ever played her You Ought to Know song in San Diego. And they literally had it spelled phonetically on the piece of paper for new artists, right? And I think people were saying it like Annalise, right? Like it's like, no, it's Alanis Morissette. I had such a crush on her. Oh my God. I met her. It's the only time I've really ever played hacky sack, actually, was with Alanis. And so we're, she's doing the circuit, right? So she's going from morning show to morning show to morning show. And of course they're talking about the album, and she's this wildly successful person. Sorry, she's this new person. She hadn't become wildly successful yet when I was playing hacky sack with her. And she was just like so chill, and she was Canadian, so that was cool. I'm Canadian. I mean, my family's from Canada, and and so we're playing hacky sack, right? And I was just like, oh my God, I love this girl's hair. And her voice, I mean, she's pretty talented, right? So there's that. But I just found her so appealing, you know? So I fell in love with Alanis Morissette. And so every time we would talk, so I was Engineer Mike. So Alanis would call up and say, Engineer Mike. She did some really cool shows. She was really, she was the one that I found to be the most into her fans this way. She would have those like intimate shows, right? So even when she became really popular, and again, it's hard to get, 100, how do you choose just 100 people out of a normally, 25,000 person arena? But she would have these intimate shows of like, sometimes 50 people. Sometimes she would do them like ahead of time, like kind of a meet and greet thing. So you would like meet her, and they would have like I remember this one time, it was like a classroom, and there was carpet, but like everyone was sitting on the floor, and she was up there, playing acoustic with her and her drummer, and yeah, she was playing acoustic with her drummer. No, her and a guitar, and oh man, she's my favorite, and she's older now, so I'm not a fan, but I love her songs. Oh, absolutely love it. And to be fair, Rike makes a very correct statement, which is, my microphone is much better than the SP665 series. So I bumped it up to the 666. Gives me that extra 20 dB of headroom I'm looking for. So, my in-laws, yes, absolutely. My in-laws are hippies using the Carabao, and they, the statement "heart of gold." I didn't know what that meant until I was welcomed into a Philippine family by the parents. I'm getting a little choked up actually thinking about that. Man, they welcomed me into their family. Whew, that felt good. Hippies plowing with buffalo back to nature. Stepping Out asks, and I wanted to answer this, if you could give only one piece of advice basically looking for someone to move to Thailand and retire there, what would it be? Come and stay for a month beforehand. Because, now again, I've been here since November. It kind of feels like a long time. Especially if they've never been to Asia. All of Asia. Because if you've never been to Thailand, and you come to Thailand, I would submit, unless you're like really appropriate, and you're not a single guy, there's some things that you kind of got to get out of your system in Thailand. I'll just speak for myself. I'm glad I did. I spent like a couple of years like cruising around and having a great time. And then I met Gracie, and I was like, well, that's it. I'm done. She is the last woman I will date. She is my future ex-fiance. So it was like, dude, I was glad I was done, because I didn't have this thing in the back of my head. Oh boy, I really shoulda. Oh my God, someone just told me about Soy 6 and I've never been to. You gotta go do all that stuff. Now, if you're not into that at all, and you've been to Asia a bunch of times, and you know all of the difference that is available over here with relationships, and I'm not just talking about messing around. I'm talking about like the difference in relationships. Again, I'm going to speak to single guys. I can't speak to a single woman or a married couple necessarily, because I don't know what that's like, and I can't. The experience I've had with single Western women coming to Bangkok, it is 180 degrees out of phase from single men coming in Thailand, not just Bangkok, Southeast Asia, but specifically to Thailand. So I think you got to come over here and you got to go do that. You got to sow your wild oats, okay? Let me just throw that out there. Unless you've already done that, and then you don't need to do that. So that's one experience. The second thing is you just need to experience Thailand. There is a delta in expectation you need to have to be able to live in this part of the world. If you're going to the Philippines, you need to have you need to have the patience of Rike. Okay? Because here's my label of the way things occur in the Philippines. Everything. I mean everything. Buying stamps, meeting someone for dinner, getting your food, going to the ATM, taking a bus, getting on a plane, waiting in a line, going to the grocery store, going hang gliding. Everything takes at least twice as long as it needs to. It is, in my opinion, Mike's opinion. That's why I live in Thailand and Rike lives in the Philippines. And many other guys live in the Philippines. Trust me, there's probably more guys that live in the Philippines than live in Thailand. And there's a hell of a lot more guys that are on the expats lockdown in Southeast Asia group on Facebook, by the way. Rike, do me a favor and throw that URL in there for the expat group. So there's a lot more guys that live in the Philippines. But for this guy, for Mike's, there are things in Thailand that happen faster here than the United States. Like, I can pay my phone bill on my phone faster. I can check out of a 7-Eleven faster here than I can in the United States. There's no cash. I just go boop with my phone with a QR code and I walk around. I walk out, and there are things that take longer here though too. There are things that are odd here. And again, I assume you're also asking me that question. And again, that's stepping out. And I love stepping out because I forget your name, your real name. I completely apologize. But I found stepping out because he basically was traveling the world. I mean, I'm not talking about like going to Thailand and Vietnam or whatever. Yeah, he's been to Thailand. But he was in like San Diego. And I'm sitting there watching one of his YouTube videos. Like, if you don't know this, I'm watching your video, and I'm sitting on my bed, like just chilling out some Saturday afternoon or whatever at home, like catching up on YouTube videos. And I'm watching the video of him eating a burrito, I want to say 4 miles from my house. And I'm like, dude. But if you know anything about vlogging or YouTubing, it's rare, unless you're doing a live cast, to be uploading a video that of an experience you had like 6 minutes ago. There's editing that's involved, and a lot of times there's a delta, right? And so and then sometimes it's not relevant. I got to tell you right now, I have so much footage on my phone, in Dropbox, on my camera, all ready to go on videos of Gracie and I going to the beach, going across to this island, if you don't know, that's here in Bangkok. But putting it up right now, it would be like, well, that's irrelevant. And I would also probably get some ridicule. Mike, what the hell are you doing being on vacation with Gracie? Oh my God, you guys don't have masks on, and you're walking around, you're touching everything metal, you guys are kissing, you're way too close. And so I just don't want to put myself out for that. I proactively prevent trolls. How's that? Versus reacting to them. Rike responds to them, meaning they get blocked, they get deleted, and he's brilliant. He doesn't engage. So Caesar says his advice is don't lend money. I would absolutely agree with that. To a point. There's going to be a point where, it's not ever, right? Nothing's forever, okay? So I get that if you're going to give a person one piece of advice, if you're coming over here, don't lend money. And I understand that, because the relationships, again, speaking from a single guy perspective, and I'm talking to single guys, if you come over here, there's a very high likelihood that you will meet someone that you will like. And you might possibly, arguably too quickly, transition that like into love, at least what you think is love, and you will possibly get the impression that the love that you have, she has too. And that absolutely is possible. Totally possible. And depending upon what town you come in, what city you're in doing that, it's actually quite probable, especially in the Philippines. The Filipinos fall in love faster. I will just throw that out there. Gracie did not fall. Trust me, I told her I loved her before she told me, okay? So it wasn't like she was like head over heels over this guy. She was mature and appropriate and cautious and that sort of thing. And I had enough experiences up to that point. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna loan this girl. First of all, she never asked. Here's the thing. Yes, don't lend money. I completely agree with that. The other thing too is if you're over here and like, again, what would I give someone to their advice? Meaning this is going to be their first time, this is their first few weeks, this is their first few months. Anyone you meet in that time, if they ask you to borrow some money, turn the other way. Absolutely turn the other way. Because like Rike and I are really good friends, like really good friends. And if I were to see him and he were to ask me for money, I would give it to him, but I would be like, well, that's kind of weird. My point is that really, really good friends don't even ask to borrow money unless it's absolutely last resort. My parents can't help me out. I can't get a personal loan that, will take care of my credit, that sort of thing. It's just a very odd thing, and I will submit that it's very odd in the Western world. It's more odd in the Western world than certainly the Philippines and certainly in Thailand. I had more people ask me to borrow money in the Philippines than I did in Thailand. I had traditionally girls, actually only girls, so I joined some groups on Facebook, right, with Rike and all this, and we're chatting, and then like there would be this new person that, and you think, okay, it's some girl, and she would literally direct message me, private message me on Facebook. Hi, maybe how you're doing. Sometimes a compliment, which is, I don't know how genuine it was. Can I borrow some money? I'm not joking. Like within 3 comments, never talked to this person before. And I would always respond with, so let me give you some advice. That is the easiest way to get a no answer for the rest of your life from that guy if you reach out to guys like me that are from a Western society, and all I can speak from is my experience in the U.S., Mexico, Thailand. Sorry, the U.S., Mexico, Canada, certain countries in Europe. Don't lead with, can I borrow some money? I mean, you've blown it for the rest of the, no, I mean, it's not like you can make up for that. That will always be in there. And no, I'm not giving you any money. So here's a tip. Don't ever ask some guy about that. And if it works, well, then one could argue that the guy who's giving you money that early, he's pretty dysfunctional too. So maybe he deserves it, But yeah, so again, come over here first, experience it. And I would say that with anything. Like, what do you say to the guy who first goes to university and is undeclared? Well, you have him test out a few, like for instance, I mean, unless you're 100% sure and obsessed with the technology like I was, and at 12 years old, I knew I was going to get my bachelor's in electrical engineering. Like I was focused on that. It was going to happen. So, I declared my major like on day 1. But the fact that there are many freshmen that undeclare, because unless you are obsessed with calculus and are willing to do like literally 100 word problems, if you will, every night and on the weekends instead of having a girlfriend, then no, you're either going to graduate barely with a C- and never get hired, or you're going to do that. You're going to commit and you're going to take, Calc 5, applied ordinal difference. The amount of math you have to do for any engineering degree is significant. And unless you're willing to do that, so try it out. That's probably the easiest answer. Try it out. Don't give any money. Yeah. The other thing I would say, make sure you have enough money. Now, the good news is if you come over here first, like raw, and you just live like a vacationer, I would argue that probably at least 98% of the time, anyone who comes over here and is on vacation, the amount of money that you spend on vacation, I'm going to say is 2, sometimes 3x what you spend living here as a person. There are many videos out there about what it costs, the cost of living. You'll see all these videos at the title, cost of living, this month, March cost of living, and the guy will go through the base. I don't do those. I have a cost of life, because the cost of living this month is very different than the cost of life last month, because there are things that occur. There are pop-ups. There are global pandemics that I need to have $500 in my pocket because in 30 minutes, Gracie needs to fly back to the Philippines. Okay? So the cost of March was a lot. And it wasn't just $500 more, because we just did, and we also vacationed, because we're like, oh yeah, we're going to be living in Thailand for the next like 3 months. We had plans on going back to the Philippines at the end of March, staying over there. We had plans with Rike and his girlfriend. We were going to go to Camotes Islands, all this stuff. And there's always a pop-up. There's always something that occurs. And it's not like, oh my God, I'm in the hospital and I need $90,000 to fix my femur. No, it's like there's stuff that happens. And I roll that into my cost of life. So my cost of life in Thailand is about $2,500 a month. And a lot of people would be like, oh my God, you're overspending. What are you, living in like a 9-bedroom house? No, that's the cost of life. My rent, first of all, it's gone down since we moved in. When we moved in, the exchange rate was such that it was $400 a month. It was 12,000 baht. Because the exchange rate lately, the last time I paid rent, which was April 1st, it like, auto deducts, $363. So my rent has gone down. And you're like, oh my God, dude, your rent is like $400 and it still costs you $2,500 a month to live? Yeah, because I do stuff. Like I didn't, like this microphone, I mean, $8 is $8. No, I mean, but my point is that I buy stuff like this. I have hobbies. And so I'm out. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not just going to like plug this directly into the laptop. I'm going to buy myself a Behringer mixer. And I'm going to pay literally 50% duty on the silly thing. So what I could buy on Amazon.com and have shipped to my house in San Diego for $72, I have to buy it here and it's going to cost $110. Fine. So I go do that. I have that microphone. And then I have this one. But for some reason, there's hum on it when I use this laptop. So those aren't the lows I'm looking for. Those aren't the warm mids. I don't get 60 cycle hum and say, oh yeah, that sounds, no, I got to get rid of that immediately. So we use the 666 series for most of the webcasts here. And so I calculate that in. My first week here, it was very expensive because I was staying in a hotel. I didn't have a place yet. And I also factored in the cost of what it cost me. Like when I really, really decided I was leaving San Diego and I'm moving here. Like I'm not just going to go on a long vacation. Like I am quitting my job. I am selling everything. I am throwing away everything else. And I got 3 pieces of luggage. I'm buying a one-way ticket and I am moving to Thailand. Am I retiring? I mean, yeah, okay, you could label it that, but I mean, this isn't work, this is fun, but I do stuff. Like, I like to keep busy. Some of what I do generates revenue, some doesn't. Some of it costs money. Like this, I mean, basically being on YouTube costs money, right? I mean, I gotta buy stuff. So yeah, I'm at about $2,500. I had to buy a visa. I had to go up to Los Angeles twice in the rental car I had because it was in the last 3 weeks of me living in San Diego. And my fantasy, of course, was that as I was driving to the airport, I would sell my car that afternoon, and then the person, out of the goodness of their heart, they would just simply drive me to the airport for free. I would take that money and I would walk away. No. You got to plan that out. So I basically sold my car 3 weeks before I needed to leave, and so then I had a rental car. And I took public transportation some, and I took like the boat, I took the ferry to work and stuff. So there's a cost. And if you're coming over here to retire and you don't want to be distracted by anything, then whatever you spent in 1 month on vacation over here, just have that. I mean, what's the downs? What are you going to do? Not spend the money? I mean, all you'll end up with is extra money. You'll end up with more. Well, okay. So JC, right? His tagline: more life for less money. You'll end up with a lot more money at the end of the month than a lot more month at the end of your money, and that is not comfy. So that's my long answer to that one. Rike says ditto to the whole not lending money thing. He talks about that a lot. He's got like a bachelor course that he does through a series of podcasts, effectively, video podcasts on his Patreon page. But again, right mouse click, 3 dots, go to channel, Rike's Life Beyond the Sea. Even broader, he says, make no commitments for your first year, no babies, no marriage, no business or loans. And I completely agree. Robin says, loving being in the studio and just being on the air. Blind with all the music output systems on the computer. Very good for him to run. Nice. Been working in radio. Been working with radio for 15 years now. That's awesome, Robin. That's really cool. I have not been in a radio. Well, okay. So I've been in like a fairly new podcast studio. There's one down the street here. Robin, where are you, by the way? You're in Bangkok, I assume? So I'm just down the street from True Digital Park, and True Digital Park has this guy that they basically pay, and he interviews people, and on behalf of True, the communications company, and to also advertise True Digital Park, he's got this little studio, and it's got glass all around it, massive echo chamber. There's like no sound dampening. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, do you know anything? And so he's got this like weird spot. Like if you lean all the way to the center of the table, it's like this massive echo. It's really, anyway. I haven't been in like real studios. I haven't been in a studio that I know costs like $1 million to build. Half $1,000,000. I've built $500,000 studios before. Now again, that's because like the device that you use to play the music cost $2,500, and it was basically like, from your perspective, it was an 8-track tape player. We used what's called carts, meaning the continuous loop, right, which is like an 8-track cartridge, if you know what that is. And those machines are like, some of them were like $5,000. Like if you got one that recorded and like did some other stuff and just like played back 2 audio channels, it was like $5,000. And in a production studio, you'd have 4, 8 of those sometimes. So that's just that. And then you'd have a mixer that was ridiculously overpriced. So radio used to cost a lot of money. Whereas, I have a radio station right now. I have it on, for years, actually. I've had an internet radio station, bigiradio.com, BIGI-radio.com. And, hey, thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Glad you're here, man. Please subscribe if you haven't. Everyone else, tell them. I'm teasing. The radio studio, I was bitten by the bug of radio when I was about 4. I was on the air long before I could drive. Like my mom had to drive me to the studio to do my first air shift when I was like 14 or 15. Enrique says he was just teaching his girlfriend hacky sack last night. Very cool. And actually her hair's it's not as long as Alanis's back then. Gracie, if you guys, my girlfriend, partner, Asawa, whatever, my love, her hair is about 1 meter long. And whenever she says, I want to cut my hair, I go, but of course her hair grows 6 inches every month. So, it's no big deal. But I love Gracie's long hair. Oh my God, it's gorgeous. It's like this blanket of, anyway, I'm not going to tell you about all the reasons I love my girlfriend, but she's amazing. Let's just say that. Rike says he spent 4 years living in a hippie commune. That's right. Yeah. If you sit down with Rike and you talk to him for a little while, he's got a really, like we all do, right? It's just very different versions. He's got a very interesting story. He's a very interesting guy. He's got a lot of integrity. He tells the truth. He's got a great sense of humor. He gets it. Let me tell you right now, when I say he gets it, if anyone like on this podcast doesn't know what I mean by that, reach out to Rike and I, because like you need to have a friend who gets it. Like that's it. You just need to be able to say, my buddy, insert name here, gets it. So he gets it. And I think a lot of you get it. I think Paul gets it. Absolutely. Okay, Paul just subscribed. Paul, you get it. Absolutely. Ding, ding, ding. Winner, winner, winner. Denmark. That's right. I apologize. I completely spaced. Robinson, Denmark, but have visited many different radio stations. I've been stranded, standing in on the breakfast shows. Got it. On Pattaya Radio 96 FM when I was on holiday in Thailand. Yeah, it's funny. So I was coming to Thailand, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna like move there eventually. This is like 2-3 years ago. So I reached out to the guys in Pattaya. Let's see. So there's Fabulous 103. And there is, oh my God, I have it on my phone. I used to listen to it all the time. I listen to it on TuneIn. And I think it's 96. I can't remember exactly the name of it, but there's like, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 English-speaking they play the hits. They play current music. And that's fun. I prefer dance music. I mean, like EDM, if you guys know what that is, like electronic dance music. That's my fave. But on TuneIn, I want to say, it's not Magic 90, Kiss. Jesus, Mike. Yeah. So Kiss FM in Thailand is Kiss FM out of Pattaya. And, I'm sorry, yeah, Kiss 91.75. Apologies. I listen to Phuket Island Radio, which is also Phuket Island Radio actually has some EDM on it, really cool. But there's Virgin Radio, and then there's a Star brand. If you don't know, actually, so the Star, if you're from the United States and you've ever heard like Star 97 or Star 93 or Star 100.7, we started that. So we started that actually at KFMB Radio in San Diego. We were the first Star. And obviously that format and that label, took off. And there's a Star in every market. There's a KISS in most markets too, right? And then there's and then there's the smaller ones, right? Like the Eagle, or the Point, or the Buzz. I hear that, and that's pretty cool. That's usually an alternative rock station, right? Or K-Rock, right? I mean, there's probably 100 K-Rocks in the United States, but there's only one KROQ-FM, Pasadena, Los Angeles. KROQ! Oh my God, those guys are my dream job. Work at KROQ in Los Angeles when I was like 20 years old. Oh my God, I would have given blood hourly to work at that station. It was an amazing radio station. So, Power of Love, Keep You Home at Night, Huey Lewis. Really? You think that's a good one? I thought that was pretty good. I remember we played that. I mean, it's got a great beginning riff, right? So I agree. That's a pretty good song. Pretty common. I think most people would know that. Expats on Lockdown Group is what, oh, dude. Okay, Brian, the rest of this podcast, live stream, all it is going to be is Brian and I waxing so pleasurably, having euphoric recall over the kick-ass radio stations that existed in Boston in the late 70s and early 80s. WCOZ 94.5 FM, kick-ass rock and roll with no BS. That was their slogan. And to give you, I think I mentioned before to you guys how a 4 share, right, basically means that the 4% of the people that listen to the radio listen to your thing. And if you have that in a market, you're doing pretty well. If you have a 10 share, that is amazing. That is like you're doing, and usually like your morning show will be so popular. There'll be one morning show in the market, for example. 10%, I mean, you'll get a 10 share and you'll be killing it. Sometimes you get a 12 share and you are over the moon. You are making big cash. Okay, so, and you're competing with like all the other FM radio stations. You go down the dial and you hear like, the same hits like every, inch or whatever. If you were to have a physical dial, which don't exist anymore, I get that. But if you're like cruising down, you listen, and a lot of times 2 stations are playing the same song at the same time, right? But back in the late 70s and early 80s, FM radio was not popular. And the joke was with the guys on the AM radio dial, because of course those were the big guys. I mean, they were, Charlie Tuna, and these were the guys that were like AM radio, like that was real radio. FM radio, yeah, the fidelity is a little bit better, but it's like it's got that music. There's no real news on it. It's a kid's thing. So FM radio was not really widely accepted, and for the most part, the music that was on there was lousy. I mean, it was like this background dentist. It wasn't even dentist. It was more like elevator music that we were playing. And then some people got the idea. You know what? This rock and roll music that's hitting the AM stations, we throw this on the FM in stereo. Johnny Dart, nice. Jeremy Savage, and Ron Garabedian. These were great guys. These are the guys that I grew up with, and I would walk around the house. I was so into radio. I would grab like pens. I would grab spatulas. I would walk around the house like announcing like I was a DJ on the air. 8, 9, 10 years old. I was obsessed with it. And so back to the ratings. WCOZ came out in Boston. I almost in tears saying this. I mean, it's just so amazing. They had a 74 share. Okay, so again, there wasn't a whole lot of competition on the FM dial for rock and roll music like Billy Squier and Queen and all of this. Okay, but a 74 share. Are you kidding me? That's like all the other transmitters were turned off. I mean, they were killing it. And then BCN came out and all of these. And of course, and then one of the more famous ones, you guys. I mean, again, if you're from the US, you may or may not have heard of these, like Z100. There's like a Z100 in a whole bunch of markets. There's X, there's 91X, there's 95X, there's, X, right? So there's all of these sort of formats, these cookie cutter type formats that are pretty successful. So that's why people use them. But yeah, WCOZ. A 74 share. Are you kidding me? It's epic. Stepping Out says, Mike, Nan, and I can't wait to join you there in Hua Hin area in a couple years. I'm totally stoked for it, dude. So Hua Hin area was okay. I prefer Cha Am. Hua Hin is, in my impression, where I would like cruise around, there's a lot more Farang. There's a lot more foreigners than there are Thai people. I don't like it. Nan is happy because she will be closer to her family, and I will be happy because I love Thailand. Sounds like that's all you need, right? There you go. The other thing I would say, stepping out to a guy who's thinking about retiring in Thailand, is make sure you have the ability to leave if you don't like it. After 4 months, after 6 months, after 2 years, make sure you have the ability to leave. And the other thing I would highly recommend to anyone thinking about retiring over here is, if at all possible, don't end up being one of these, I was just going to say guys, but women do it too. Be one of these people that sits around and complains about what's wrong. Because at the end of the day, you can't do anything, right? Like if you're over here complaining about the government, you can't say, well, you should have voted. I mean, if you're in California, well, right, you're congressman. Okay, fine. But if you're over here and you complain about it doesn't matter. Suck it up. That's the way it works. Oh my God, I can't believe everyone drives on the left here. Well, you know what? That's how they do it, bro. And you're not going to change it. And one could argue it's actually a little bit more efficient, depending upon. But, oh my God, they have insurance. The way that I went to, no, stop. Okay? If you get to the point where you're doing that, got me and guys like me who arguably have rose-colored glasses on, but I freaking love my life so much, and I love Thailand. I also love Vietnam when I was there, because I was there with me and Gracie. But the point is it don't just go, okay? I mean, if you're getting to the point where at least 51% of what you talk about in your surroundings is lame, I mean, just for your own your own quality of life, just stop complaining and find another solution. I really, really recommend that, because, I mean, and it's not just Thailand, trust me. I mean, there's plenty of negative Nancys in the whole world, okay? But the point is that, it's an expat thing that I've really noticed. And I noticed it first back in 2000 when I was down in Mexico. I was in San Felipe, and there were plenty of guys, usually, down there, and they would complain. They would complain about the Mexicans, everything's so slow, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, leave. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from, Roanoke Valley, or I'm from, Tennessee, or I'm from, whatever. And, but, this is bad there, this is bad there. The president this, and the taxes this, and of course I'm down here, and I'm sticking it to the United States because I'm not paying taxes, but I'm getting Social Security, or whatever. I don't resonate with those people, okay? So try and look at the bright side. No matter where you go, actually, I would give this advice really to anybody. Because again, at the end of the day, it's livemyassoff.com. It's not like, I also had a consulting company that was called Amazing. It wasn't called Adequate, okay? It was like, look, dude, you either wake up and you want to do 110% at 80 miles an hour and add value to somebody else's life, or, you're adequate. And there's plenty of room for adequate. The world needs adequate people. And there are many things I would submit that I do that are adequate. Like, I do the laundry adequately. I don't do it skipping around the house. I don't wear a crazy hat. I don't blast the music. I don't, have coloring pens or whatever. I just do the laundry. So I do that, But for the most part, my life, 110%, 80 miles an hour, go big or go home. I would give that advice to people. A lot of people would be like, dude, stop. I'm retired. Would you decaf, Mike's? Decaf. So, and Steven Out says, we're looking forward to lots of videos in Thailand. Hopefully we can make a travel video together in Thailand. Dude, that would be amazing. You, me, Nan, and Gracie. Oh, that would be, I love doing that. I love doing videos with other vloggers, because you get that banter, right, back and forth. You get this, vision, potentially my rose-colored glasses, and then you get the other person's, experience, strength, and hope, or whatever, And Paul Z, thank you very much again. If I didn't say it, thank you very much. Good show. I appreciate that. That's really good. Yes, sir, Robin. And then Star Radio, oh my God, go-to radio when I'd goof off in San Diego every year. Well, I didn't know that. That's good to know. So you listened to my radio station. So I didn't own it, of course. But Star 100.7, we were San Diego, maybe for like about 2 years. Obviously, the ratings go up and down, and people get in different moods, and things happen around you. So, but one of the things that we did, how the radio stations have contests, right? So type into YouTube or Google "Whirl Till You Hurl," WHIRL, till you hurl. And basically what that meant is ride this roller coaster as many times as you possibly can without throwing up, and we will pay you $50,000 and give you a Nissan. So we did this promotion, and radio stations do promotions all the time. Sometimes they have a hands promotion, so you basically stand there and you have your hands in the car. And if you have to go to the bathroom, then you got to leave. If you get a back pain, you got to leave. And the last guy to have his hands in the car, he wins the car. Okay. And that lasts, so that's like a 6-hour commitment, right? Or you have like bowling tournaments and people compete, whatever. Or you do, I want to say, you'll do contests, but with people in the community. It's not just like fifth caller gets $1,000. I mean, it's a lot more engaging. Anyway, so. And Tracy Johnson, there's no way he's listening, but okay, again, it's my show, it's my opinion. Tracy Johnson is the best programmer in the country. He comes in and he touches a radio station, and then he touches the air staff, and they're number one. I mean, the guy is amazing. And he consults. He's on YouTube. I don't know if he's on YouTube. He's on LinkedIn. He's on Facebook. He's on my Facebook. Anyway, so Tracy Johnson. Genius, okay? Real men of genius. If any of you remember that silly commercial about Bud Light. Real men of genius was Tracy Johnson. So he comes in and he starts up this star format. And we're doing pretty good. And then a whole bunch of stars pop up in the rest of the country. And he says, okay, and he works, and this is also the promotion department. Kim Leeds, Leeds. She's on my LinkedIn too. Amazing, brilliant mind. They come up with this thing. They're like, okay, so we're going to do this thing. And in San Diego, on Mission Bay, down in Mission Beach, there is a roller coaster, right? And it's this really old wooden classic roller coaster. It's like 100 years old. It's wooden, and it goes up and down, and it doesn't spin around, but it goes down. Yeah, you feel a little bit weightless and that sort of thing. And at the end of the day, when you're done on this roller coaster, you thank God, because you're like, I cannot sit in this chair any longer. It's like, it's almost like it's like no, there's just like this bar in front of you. None of this full, it's not a Disney ride, okay? There's not like this chest protector and that sort of thing. I mean, there's this bar, and there's never any leg room for anyone who's, I'm 6'2", right? So imagine, you're 5'5", you're bumming out on this thing. And they're like, okay, so we're going to do this promotion, and we're going to have the morning show go down there. We'll have the afternoon show go down there, and they'll broadcast live. And we'll call it Whirl Till You Hurl. And basically, you're going to whirl. You're going to ride this roller coaster until you either want to leave because you hate it, or you throw up and then you have to leave. Because if you ride a roller coaster enough, even if you're really good at it, it's going to churn you around, and eventually you're going to get sick. And we're going to give you bathroom breaks every 2 hours or something like that. We're going to feed you, of course, because it's radio, right? So you don't. The joke in radio is people would say to us that we're in radio, oh, do you have any money for this? Are we going to do this, whatever? And it would always say, no, dude, look, I'm in radio. I carry no cash. Everything was trade. I would walk into stores with my business card with the radio station. Nightclubs. I didn't pay for drinks ever. It was just hey, I'm with the radio station. Oh, okay, yeah. Free food. Script is what we would call it, especially if we were advertising for them, which is why we had the Nissan we were giving away. And it wasn't a Nissan we were giving away. It was a Mossy Nissan that we were giving away, because Mossy was the sponsor, and they were giving us that, and we were doing ads for them. And they're like, look, we'll just sponsor the car. It's a $26,000 Nissan. Who the hell's going to ride a roller coaster for that long and do it, right? And we're going to give them $50,000. And they had to sign a waiver saying if my back hurts or if I throw up or if I smack my tooth or if in any way I will not hold the station liable, and I'm doing this under my own free will, I'm going to ride this roller coaster. So people start riding this roller coaster. And a day goes by and we're like, okay. And I'm down there with some equipment, and then I'm like, okay, well, this is going to go a little bit longer than we thought. So let's get like a tarp, or let's get like, and one of the promotions people, they're like, oh, let's get a hammock. So they got a hammock, people would hang out, you know. And so I'd have all the broadcast equipment down there. We do a live show, and then be like, okay, and 24 hours go by, week goes by. And all of a sudden, we're like, we got like 9 people on this roller coaster that, you know, it's like a bunch of cars, right? So let's say for the sake of argument, it would seat 20. We had one person in every car, at least. And they're not leaving. And so we're like, okay, so we either got to give away $250,000, $50,000 each to get all these people off. We got to give away 5 cars. No. They'll get off. We'll be good. So fast forward to 2.5 months later, and these poor people are still riding this roller coaster. Well, by that time, CNN had picked us up, and we said, well, let's bring some live bands in. That was like a couple weeks in. So we brought in like Natasha's Ghost or something like that, some San Diego band, not Blink 182, not that San Diego, but even though they're from anyway, the point is that we brought these bands in. So then it starts getting some national publicity. Then it got global publicity. We were on the front page of like USA Today, like radio station, World to Hurl, and every other radio station is like, well, we don't have a roller coaster in our market. How the hell are we going to compete with these people? And it's not like another radio station down the street could be like, oh, no, we're going to do it better. We're going to get this other roller coaster. Forget it. Everyone would be like, no, look at dude. Star does World to Hurl. And our slogan was, hi, Star. And when we would give away money, you would call in and you would say, hi, Star, now give me my money. And we would give you money. And so there were people that didn't particularly like the fact that we had these people riding this roller coaster over and over and over and over again. So a few people would say, die Star, or bye Star. So we got like really popular. So a few artists called us and wanted to perform, like Olivia Newton-John. So Olivia Newton-John comes in, and she's ready to do her little show. And there's the roller coaster, right? Now, under the main big, swooping thing, you walk through it and you walk to the parking lot. And there's a parking lot, and it maybe holds like, 200 cars, let's say. It's like one of these little parking lots that's like near the beach that as you drive by in the middle of the afternoon, you're like, damn, their parking lots are so small here, I can never get my car parked here. Yeah. Enrique remembers Will to your hero. So we basically say, okay, well, look, we're going to, ask the city and rent it or do whatever. We get the permits, and we're like, all right, we're going to get this parking lot. And we're going to, people will walk in, and it's free, right? Free concert. And so we'll have Olivia, we'll get a stage there. And up to this point, we had already done like 10 shows, okay? So everyone in town knows, because we're promoting it like crazy. Like everyone in town, whether you liked our music or liked our DJs, you knew about World to Your Hero. Everyone knew about Star. And so we get this stage, and I call up a sound guy. I call up a backup sound guy, because we're not going to have an audio issue trust me. So my guy shows up. He sets everything up. It's about 2 to 3 hours ahead of time. Everything's ready to go. First, second, third check, everything. It's going to be awesome. So the parking lot is now filled with people standing like this. And I'm like, okay. So I say to the sound guy, I'm like, look, these people are really going to cut down on that. What I want you to do is I want you to mount some speakers up on the roller coaster, high up, so that they blast out into Mission Bay Park. And if you know anything about San Diego, you know that Mission Bay Park is about 200 acres. So it's big. And so there's the street that I was talking about that you drive by to go to the parking lot that we were in right in front of the roller coaster. And then across the street, there is another parking lot that will hold maybe 1,000 cars. And then there's Mission Bay Park, which is this giant grassy area that goes in front of Mission Bay in San Diego. So I call And the guy's like, okay, look, we're going to have to like climb up into the roller coaster to put these speakers up there. I'm like, absolutely, get it done. He's like, okay, it's going to cost you more money. I'm like, dude, come on. So he does that. And then the parking lot across the street fills up. Now, you can still hear pretty good, and for the most part, there was so much traffic that the cops like stopped the cars coming from in and out because they slow down and watch. No, so we got rid of that. So Olivia gets there. And I had no idea that she was so loved. People loved her because of her music. People loved her because, like, when they watched Grease for the first time, it was like the first time they kissed a girl, or whatever reason they had. Many people loved her because she survived breast cancer, and she was like the poster child for surviving breast cancer with elegance and dignity and grace. And so people wanted to just basically come and see Olivia. Some people wanted to just like come and touch her, to kiss her robe, to touch her ring, whatever it was. Kiss her ring, touch her robe. And so I called number 2 sound guy, and I'm like, so dude, I need like 2x all of the audio that's down here, and because we're using so much right now, you're gonna have to bring your own generator. So he's like, well, Mike, that's gonna cost you. I'm like, dude, what's it gonna cost me? $25,000? Whatever, dude. Show up. When do you need me? 11 minutes. So he shows up. We put speakers all the way across the street, all the way into Mission Bay. Now, I was never at Woodstock, but I want to tell you that because once a lot of people show up somewhere, news outlets show up. Now, we were part of KFMB, AM, FM, and TV. So we were Channel 8. So we had our own helicopter, and we had, going around. But there are helicopters, like, circling around, and I'm like, what the hell? Belmont Park. Absolutely, Rike. And there's like 100,000 people watching Olivia. And I'm like, wow. And she did Physical, and she did, Xanadu, and she did all the, and I was like, I had no idea. I mean, because the last time we played an Olivia Newton-John song on our station at that time was like, maybe once every 2 weeks as like a flashback song during the 80s flashback lunch or whatever, something like that. She was not high rotation, right? And I was amazed. So that was the best. I mean, you want to talk about best job I ever had. It was also the most stressful job I ever had. It was the best paying job I ever had. I got to meet the most visible people. I got to meet really, really awesome, interesting, intelligent, cool people that I like to, mind meld with, working in IT at a university for 14 years. But I met some people that are just, they literally, like, they're household names, right? And they change the world based on their behavior. I'll give you a great example. Steven Tyler. So Steven Tyler, publicly, he's gotten sober. He wrote a book about it when he used to use, and so he got sober, and then he relapsed, and then he got sober, and he writes about getting sober. And I will submit to you that there are at least a handful of people out there that got sober because they loved Aerosmith so much and they love Steven Tyler. If Steven Tyler got sober, I'm going to get sober. So my point is that there's plenty of people out there, household names, very visible, that add a lot of value to the world. And I got to meet those people, and it was just amazing to, off microphone, right? Again, the best conversations happen when you turn the mic off. And these people, they were changing Alanis, oh my God. She had so many charities. She wasted a lot of money, sadly. She had some really bad advice, like investing in mp3.com. She was a major investor, and all that money went into dust. But the interesting part is, when I first started meeting these people, right? So like when I was younger and stuff, I was like kind of starstruck. The cool thing about Alanis is when I met her, I was like, oh cool, you're like some short girl with big hair that's like from Canada. And then she would sing a cappella, and I would be like, oh my God, you like, your lungs are 3 times the size of your body. Like, how do you sing that well? How do you carry a note that well? How do you belt that out? How do you get in such bad relationships that gives you all that damn material to write these songs? But, and so, I met Sting, right? And all these people, global people, right? And that was great because, once you get over the starstruckness, right? If you're in that business, like, that's who you meet. Like, when I was in IT, I met, like, IT people, right? So, like, I met Michael Dell when I was working in IT. I didn't meet him when I was in radio. I met, radio people. And it's really cool to hear from those people. It was also really humbling because those people that are household names traditionally work their ass off. They are incredibly skilled at doing one thing very well, to the point where everyone in the world knows them, right? Because they have made an impact. And they're obsessed with it. And they obsess about that. Now, you listening to this, you may have a skill, and you're like, hey, I'm really good at doing video editing, or I'm really, really good at landscaping, or I'm really, really good at flying a plane. I'm a great private pilot, and I can navigate a boat through the Panama Canal blindfolded. I'm really, really great at that. Okay, awesome. But stars are... I mean, I'm not good at anything as much as they are good at doing that. Like, they're just so exceptional at doing that. So, when you do that, and you have all of the world judging you via National Enquirer, a lot of times you want to numb out, and drugs are a great solution for that. So yeah, you'll hear about a lot of people that get into that business and then they turn to solutions that don't involve smoothies, okay? Or taking care of yourself, or yoga, and that sort of thing. But then there are other people. I mean, Alanis has never had a drug problem. And she's right? But she was never career limiting like it was for a lot of other people, sadly. And then some died, right? I mean, Chris Farley, brilliant, but, anyway, the point is that that was great. Working in radio was absolutely great. And in fact, BK, I just saw his thing. He says he still regrets not taking the day off when Star hosted Donna Lewis on the beach. I forgot. We did some amazing shows to the point where we had to do that promotion again the following summer. And like a month. I mean, these people, they were riding this roller coaster to the point where when people would buy their tickets, to just you go to a park, right? It's like tiny, really, Belmont Park is a very tiny amusement park, but they have this roller coaster. So people would sell their tickets in line, because the line to ride now with our contestants are stars. These people were now stars. They each had a name. They had personalities. People would hold up banners. They were rooting for them. They had their stars, and we made these people stars. It was a lot more than 15 minutes of fame, because we had an FM station, and yeah, they talked about it a little bit on the AM, like literally a little bit. But I mean, they were on TV. I mean, they were every night. There was a little snippet of the evening news about these people that are doing world radio. I've never been part of a radio promotion that was so epic, that was so wildly successful. Because you want to talk about generating revenue. When you're that visible, and Ford comes to you and says, yeah, we want to run a couple of spots, and how much will those be? And you say, well, it's $1,000 for 60 seconds. Our morning show, to give you an example of how much money you can make, or used to be able to make in radio. Our morning show at the time was paid, there was two guys, Jeff and Jer, and each of them was paid approximately $1 million a year. And you say, oh my God, that is just so much money. I mean, that's ridiculous. They're making too much money. They're the elite. They're the 1%ers, whatever. Okay, let me tell you something about a company that pays someone $1 million. You don't pay them $1 million and go in debt, okay? You pay them $1 million because the amount of revenue that them being part of your organization generates is worthwhile. So I told you that we were running 60-second commercials that were $1,000 for a 60. And or a unit, and a unit can be a 30 or a 60, but obviously if you're advertising, you would prefer a 30, you would prefer a 60 or two 30s or whatever. You wanted 60 seconds of someone's attention. Now you and I have both driven in the car in the morning, and we've heard the talk, we love the DJ, we love the music, and then they hit the commercial break. And the commercial break is 5, 6, sometimes in the morning shows 7 minutes long, because it's commercial after commercial after commercial. So the first commercial that you play is, you call that front loading, and you front load that spot. And therefore, there's a higher likelihood of the person in their car listening through that first 60 seconds than the next 60. So therefore, you charge more for the front loaded one. So, but let's face, for the sake of argument, we got paid $1,000 for a 60-second spot. We ran 26 units an hour. So for the remaining 34 minutes that hour, we actually gave you something other than the opportunity to buy something. Okay, so there were 26 commercials per hour, and the morning show was actually they would come in from 6 to 10, but we would play another hour between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. of a pre-recorded best of. So there would be like the best things that the morning show ever did for the first hour, and then it would go live at 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So rather than just having a morning show where you could charge all that money for the morning show when they were there, you now had a 5-hour morning show that you basically only had to pay 4 hours worth of staff time. Now obviously they get paid, right? So let's say for the sake of argument, it is 25 units an hour, okay? So in a 4-hour shift, right, you're paying 100 spots. I mean, I'm going down. Like, I mean, this is it was a lot more than this. Because if you've ever heard like a DJ like crack the mic and they were like talking, you think that like they're having this really interesting conversation about the fact that they needed to get floor mats this weekend. And then all of a sudden, by the way, I bought those at AutoZone. Well, that's called an ad lib, and they pay for those too. And you would do those in the middle of commercials because people wanted to hear the jocks talk about something. And so they would wait till the third commercial because they knew after the fourth commercial, for whatever reason, they would have this ad lib thing. They didn't know, no one knows it's an ad lib. They just think it's the DJs talking again. So they're listening through that. So anyway, we made $100,000 a day just on the 4-hour morning show, okay? Just for the commercial spots. So at the end of the week, we made $500,000 just for the morning show. Just for those 4 hours. We have another 20 hours of the day. And our afternoon show, they were so incredibly popular. I mean, it was amazing. Our midday show, she had this 80s show that like literally half of the entire market listened to her noon 80s show. She was the 80s. Anita. She is amazing. And very engaging. People loved her. Soccer moms loved her. She was a soccer mom. I mean, it was very engaging. But let's say for the sake of argument, the only money we make that whole day is from the morning show. So that's $500,000 a week. And the morning show, each guy makes $1 million a year. So in 1 month, we pay for the whole morning show. Okay? Because I just told you about that little spot, but again, there was that 5-hour spot that I didn't include in the math. Actually, I subtracted 1 per hour just for easy math. And then there was those ad libs where they would make money too. We would make money and they would make money. So we paid for the morning show in 1 month. It was 11 months of profit. So they could have been like, we're not cool enough. We need to renegotiate our contract. We want $2 million. Done. Go. Just get on the air. Sit. Talk. Just say something. Don't get sick. Don't get a sore throat. Don't hate me. Get on the air. Do whatever you have to do. So when people are like, oh man, Howard Stern, he signed the $10 million contract. Dude, XM Radio has 35 million subscribers. That's nothing. I mean, think about it. It's 35 million subscribers, and that was a while ago. XM had 35. That was before they merged. They had let's say, sake of argument, XM Radio, 35 million subscribers. Each person paying $10 a month, $350 million a month. The infrastructure for satellite radio costs approximately $100 million a month all in. So you got a couple of satellites. They started out with 2 satellites, if you don't know, about XM Radio. Each satellite was called Rock and Roll, and then they're like, we need more penetration, so they put up 2 more satellites, so they had a total of 4. So they had Rock and Roll and Rhythm and Blues. So trivia, tech trivia. And so that was XM Radio. And so they were making basically $300 million, $250 million a month profit. Okay? And so when you're like, oh my God, they paid him $10 million, big deal. All they had to do is keep the damn satellites on for 1 week. It's $10 million. It's, so I bring that up because a lot of people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe this ball player. They're paying him way too much. But trust me, they're not doing it because they're taking a loan out. Major League Baseball does not lose money, ever. Radio stations that rebroadcast the things pay potentially too much. So anyway, that was probably a lot more radio than you guys ever wanted to know about, huh? Robin says, The Kiss FM was run by a Danish guy. Over in Denmark. Cool. Danny Fobian. He was also the man behind 96 FM. Now Kisses in Pattaya has new owners, as far as I know. Yeah, I can't remember. I remember when they got new. Well, I think it's part of Fabulous, right? I think it's like the Fabulous Radio Group. And Brian says, yes, sir, absolutely. That's totally cool. Yeah, so Brian making a statement, don't be a Barstool Thai Visa Forum member. And, I mean, there is some data that is mildly relevant in Thai Visa, but I will tell you that you have to spend attention units to sift through the stuff that is totally emotional reaction and personal bias, and then people that just basically want to post things on a popular website to get noticed. And so it doesn't work for me. That I don't like that blog. TheTiger.com, I find their reporting to be actually pretty accurate. Surviving TN. Oh, Marty. Okay, guys. In the YouTube comments, you're going to see Surviving TN. Go over to the three dots, right mouse click. Go to his channel, subscribe, turn the bell on for everything. Marty is a awesome guy. Surviving TN, and his videos are about him surviving TN. I can't pronounce TN. At the end of the day, it is 2 letters of an abbreviation for 2 words that are very long, that basically describes really, really bad headaches. Okay? So, please do that. But anyway, Marty says best roller coaster ride ever was the huge wooden one at Magic Mountain going backwards. Absolutely, dude. I completely remember that. If you guys don't know what Magic Mountain is a okay, so like all of you have heard of Six Flags, okay? So it's basically a Six Flags property, but Magic Mountain is the one. It's up in, I want to say, Ventura. I bet Rike knows where it is, but I can't remember exactly where it's at. But yeah, I've been there. It was amazing. Caesar asked, what happened to Tom Likas and the Jewish guy with long hair and the black lady? So Tom Likas, he just got old, and ratings change. And so at the end of the day, it was a contract renegotiation and his years and years and years in the broadcast industry, and he decided that I want to write this down before I forget. The old Jewish guy his name was Ted Leitner. And he was wildly successful, and I lucked out because when we were making $21 million a month on the FM, which is a lot of money, and but that was at the peak. I mean, radio peaked in the 90s, and then like Napster showed up, and that pretty much, if you don't think Valencia, thank you, which is where Magic Mountain is. If you don't think that like Napster changed the world, then you just don't have enough knowledge. I'm not saying you're stupid. I'm just saying that you don't understand what happened when Napster came on board, because once that came on board, it opened up people's eyes to a different way to digest music. Because before, it was like, gotta buy your own records and cassettes and CDs. And yeah, you could make copies of a CD and give it to your buddy. And technically, that was illegal, And, if you were caught, like, selling cassettes that you made out of this, you buy one CD and you make 20 cassettes and you sell, yeah, okay, I get it. But people would listen to the radio. And when I was a kid, I would listen to the radio, and then you would record the radio if you liked that song enough, and you basically didn't have enough money at 12 to go buy the whole album, right? So you would record it off the radio and you would listen back to it that way. So then, the internet is like showing up, kind of, and people are like dialing in, and some people have like dedicated lines, and for the most part DSL was like just starting, but it was dial-up, and people were able to now get music over the internet, which was helpful, because when satellite radio came out, it was just like when cable TV came out. People are like, no one's ever going to pay money for satellite radio. And I was a beta tester for XM, and I was a beta tester for Sirius, because I'm like, you morons that don't think people are going to pay money for a radio station that never fades out, has no static, provides programming in a box that was, of course, later integrated completely with the radio, that provides way more solution, way more content, way better fidelity than anything that's available on FM. And I can go through the technical reasons for that. That's for another broadcast. We'll get into the technology of radio in another live stream. How's that? But I saw that and I was like, oh, this is game changing. Yeah, it was illegal, but the software that was written that allowed you to basically type in a song that you lost, or the album broke, or you left that cassette on your dash and it melted in the sun, so you don't have that song anymore and you're really bummed and you really want it. You could do that with Napster, as you guys probably remember. And so that also gave people the idea that, hey, so wait, there's this other form, and then there's this XM. So there's actually two different new forms of radio, two different forms of music. So I'm willing to accept that. That's actually pretty cool. I can do that. So that took off, and then obviously the story of Napster, wildly illegal, but again, it changed the way people can digest music. There would be no iTunes if there was not a Napster, trust me. And so that really changed how people began getting music. And so yeah, that was a really interesting time to be around. But before that, that's when I mean the peak. Basically, the peak of radio hit when you were able to basically say, even before we did Whirl Till You Hurl, if you were able to say, look, I need you to pay me $1,000 for every 60 seconds of airtime you give on our radio station in San Diego, then you were doing really well. Now, you could do that in Los Angeles. I mean, Los Angeles is like market 2, right? And so number 1 is New York, and Los Angeles number 2. Sometimes it depends how you classify Greater Los Angeles, but for the most part, that was agreed to be number 2. You would get $5,000 for 60 up there. So anyway, Colossus, forward and backwards. Absolutely, I forgot about that roller coaster. So anyway, it was an amazing time to be in there, and we made a ton of money. And then Caesar says, I was thinking of Howard Stern before he went satellite only. Yeah. So before he went satellite, he was in K-Rock, right? Actually, the first station I want to say that had any sort of teeth, really, that he was on, that had a decent market share, was, I believe, DC 101. I believe that was the radio station in Washington, D.C., I want to say. But it might have been New York. I can't remember. Anyway, he was on K-Rock in New York for a while. And then he syndicated on other radio stations through, I want to say Westwood One, but I can't remember exactly. Rike said Kiss Radio also shot a movie there. Kiss meets Phantom of... Oh, Kiss the band? Oh, wow. Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park. I'm going to have to see if I can find... I was a huge Kiss fan. They were an amazing, amazing group. Gene Simmons is a genius marketer, because not only did he say, hey, let's start a band, let's write our own music, and let's make money, and let's tour, and let's do that. Let's also start a record company, and then we'll put other bands on here, and then we'll make real money. He was genius. Yeah, and then I'm trying to remember when Howard went all satellite. It was obviously when XM and Sirius were pretty well known. It was because it started out, you could only get it in the really expensive cars. So if you had a 7 Series Beamer, or you had to get the Kiss the band, you had to get the additional like the first XM radio I had when I was beta testing. There were these it was about the size of a hockey puck or something like that, and it sat on the dash, and then it was audio out, and then you could either go aux in, right, to the thing, into the radio in your dash in your car, or what I did, which was plugged into a cassette tape, and you put the cassette tape in there, and then the audio played back through the cassette. Yeah, Colossus, forwards and backwards. That was really cool. Well, anyway, so that's a little bit of my life, actually, and a lot less about Thailand, really. But it's coming up on 3 hours, and so I think that's about good. I'm going to try and do this the best I possibly can. I'm going to thank the people from Facebook, because they're not in my scroll just right yet. But I absolutely want to thank Missy. She always comes on. Kirk, thank you for coming by. I really appreciate it. Dennis, always great to hear from you, man. And Brenda, I love Brenda, miss her. And let's see, did I miss anyone else from Facebook who came by? Okay, that's cool. Pretty much everyone else is from YouTube. So let me make sure I get that right. Nico Greco, you are awesome. I really appreciate you coming by. He's definitely a new sub. Brian, dude, thank you for bringing back Boston. That was Boston radio. That was really cool. Rike, it is a joy to have you as a buddy and to do this together, dude. I really hope we can kind of get two videos up there and we can do this and hang out. Dozer, always love seeing you. Same with Matt and iTruck. I don't want to miss anybody. Roy, thank you for coming by. I know Steppin' Out's down there. Charlie, thank you for saving my life once again. And Missy also came by on YouTube too. That's really cool. Thank you for the new subs. I really appreciate that. Teresa, I always love seeing you. Teresa's a great lady, and if you see her in the list there, right mouse click on the 3 dots, go to her because she's one of the world's best photographers. And so Moments of Your Life Photography, if you're in the San Diego area, you absolutely got to hang out with her. Caesar, I'm really, really stoked you came by, man. I really like your input. It's engaging. It's really cool. I love that. Traveler, Mike, always good to see you. I don't know if you do live broadcasts. So if you guys are also YouTubers and you're like, okay, Mike, so I came to your live stream, but you never show up on mine. I swear, I only get 50% of the notifications. And trust me, I'm versed in clicking the subscribe button and doing the drop down for the bell on the top choice where it says all. So as far as I'm concerned, I should absolutely be notified of what's going on, but for some reason I'm not. So Robin from Denmark, thank you. Yes, please, let's hang out and let's do some radio stuff together, man. That would be just outstanding. Or woman, I apologize. I didn't get clarification on that. Surviving TN, Marty, oh my God, buddy, I love you. And I hope everything's going okay. And I hope your videos are getting wild success. And he also mentioned that a friend of his has coronavirus. So I hope they are doing okay. I hope they're safe and happy wherever they are. And yeah, I got Steppin' Out, I got Robin, and just want to make sure I got all you guys. Caesarillion, I mean, I think that's just really cool. Caesarillion, that's really cool. But Caesar for short. One of my greatest buddies that I worked with in San Diego at Paul Z also, thank you very much. And Paul's Asian Adventure channel, that's really cool. I also appreciate your recent subscribe. That's an honor, man. Adam M, thank you. Very cool, very cool. Appreciate you swinging by. And I also know that there are people that come by that watch that don't comment, and so I really appreciate you guys too. I don't do this for the money. Trust me. I do this for the interaction with people who get it. So I really appreciate you guys swinging by and get it. Rike's his record was Rike's was a 5-hour one, dude. Yeah, I totally get that. That was pretty awesome. And the only reason it was 5 hours, I would submit, is because at hour 2.5 or 3, his computer froze up and the stream stopped. So he had the ability to actually get up and use the restroom without having to stop the stream, and then came back and did it for 3 hours. I'm just giving you a hard time, dude. So Caesar, right on. Good show. Thank you for Mind Sub. Very cool. That's a new one. I didn't see that. That's great. And Caesarillion Thailand Paul, you don't mean Paul, the buddy of mine who I hang out with at noontime, do you? All right, anyway. Thank you, guys and gals. I really appreciate it. And again, here's the deal. You may have gotten some impression that I am grateful, or at least let's just say I'm energetic. Let's go with that. I will tell you, if you haven't figured it out, I'm also incredibly happy. I am the luckiest guy in the world, and I pray to God that every morning when you wake up or any mirror you look into, you can say the exact same thing about yourself. Because if you're listening to this, I'm guessing you got a roof over your head and you haven't been out in that field with a carabao lately to farm rice to make a living. Okay, so I'll just say this: I'm living the dream. I hope you're living the dream, because I'll tell you right now, if you're not living the dream, you're doing it wrong. It doesn't mean you're broken or whatever. It just means that in my experience, if I'm regularly disappointed and bummed out, I'll give you a great example. I don't have bad days anymore. I haven't had a bad day in literally 28 years. And I have bad hours. I definitely have bad hours. I may have a bad couple hours in a row, but I don't have bad days. I have bad minutes, and then they go away, and I'm like, okay, whatever. That was disappointing. It didn't go my way. I didn't get my only child satisfied, and so therefore I'm bummed out. But no, the whole world around me isn't like horrible. And yeah, the whole world around me right now is horrible. But I got to wake up this morning, and you know what? I actually know of 2 guys in the last month, and really through no fault of their own, they didn't. Like, they're dead. And I'm not smiling because I think that's funny. It's just that, like, the Native Americans have a phrase, which is, it's a good day to die. And all that means is that you've gone through the time and the energy to make sure everyone in your life that you love, like, you know they know. Like if you were to, like, 1,000 Bibles, $10,000 bet in Vegas on $1 million, you know, they know you love them. You've taken care of that. That checkbox is done. It's a good day to die. And I'm comfortable in my own skin, and I got to wake up today. I get another 24. So, at least in my opinion, that's what it means to live my ass off. And I hope you're living the dream. Talk to you soon. Ciao.